Good morning. I'm calling to order the Panama City Commission meeting for April 14th at 8 a.m. We are going to start by an opening prayer by Reverend Adam Cabana, First Church of the Nazarene lead pastor, followed by a Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Brian Granger. Please stand.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for another day on your earth. Thank you for the very breath that we draw today. As the author of all creation, we ask you to look within our hearts today and rid ourselves of all selfishness. We ask that you would pour your Holy Spirit into us and cleanse us of this selfishness, so that as we go about business today, it would not be with selfish desires, but with one to fulfill your call, your plan, and your will. So Lord, fill us with your Spirit today. Lead us and guide us as we talk about the many things of Panama City. And we pray that every decision, everything done today would not be done for us, but for you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mayor Branch,
Present.
Commissioner Granger,
Present.
Commissioner Street,
Here.
Commissioner Hughes,
Here.
Commissioner Lucas.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
You've received the meeting minutes from March 24th. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger,
Yes.
Commissioner Street,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas,
Yes.
Mayor Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have two from staff. Request item 9C, which is consideration and acceptance in support of the Panama City Fire Department's community risk assessment, as well as item 11A under the clerk for consideration of approval of budget amendment resolution. Would request that both of those get removed and brought back at a time that staff so desires. Again, 9C, 11A.
9C, 11A.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger,
Yes.
Commissioner Street,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas,
Yes.
Mayor Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Any other deletions, modifications from the board? No? No? Okay.
All right. April is here, bringing bright days and fresh momentum to dive into everything happening in our community. Sign up for City Alerts and receive updates straight to your inbox or phone. From our monthly newsletter to road closures, boil water notices, and more, we'll keep you informed year-round. Don't miss a moment. Scan the QR code or visit panamacity.gov to sign up today. The city will host a series of public workshops on April 16th and 17th later this week to gather community input for its comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is a long-range policy document that guides future growth and development. It establishes overall goals, objectives, and policies related to land use, housing, transportation, infrastructure, and conservation, typically looking ahead 10 to 20 years to outline the city's vision for the future. Sessions will be held April 16th at 9 a.m. at the Garden Club in Central Panama City, and then again at 1 p.m. at the MLK Junior Rec Center over in East Panama City. And then again on April 17th at 9 a.m. at the Majette Community Center, and then later that day at 1 p.m. at City Hall in downtown Panama City. Residents are encouraged to attend one of these 4 sessions and share their feedback. Join us at the San Andrews Farmers Market on April 18th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. for the annual Earth Day celebration. The Earth Day proclamation reading will begin at 11:45 a.m. and activities for the whole family that includes music, dancing, craft and food vendors, environmental vendors, and a tree giveaway. Surveys from the 2026 CRA Socials are now available online. We're accepting responses through April 20th. These surveys are specific to each CRA district, and your feedback helps shape future priorities. To participate, visit panamacity.gov, scan the QR code, or visit the website survey link on the screen. Applications are now open for the Summer 2026 World Changers Neighborhood Improvement Program, hosted in partnership with the Panama City CRA. Applications will be accepted through May 31st. Eligible homeowners in the downtown North and Millville CRA districts can apply online at panamacity.gov. The Panama City's Charter Review Advisory Board continues its work on a thorough evaluation of the city's charter. Their next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, April 23rd at 12 noon in room 236 at City Hall. For details on the advisory board's efforts and to stay informed on upcoming meetings, please visit panamacity.gov. The Panama City Symphony, in partnership with our Parks, Culture, and Recreation Department, brings live musical performances to the City Hall Rotunda once a month through their Musically Up Close series. Join us Friday, April 24th at 3:30 p.m. in the City Hall Rotunda for the next free performance. An Arbor Day tree giveaway is happening on Saturday, April 25th at Oaks by the Bay Park from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. or while supplies last. Bay County residents can receive up to 2 trees per household. For additional details, please visit our website at panamacity.gov. Henry Davis Park in the Glenwood community is wrapping up its major revitalization, adding the new Kiwanis Centennial Playground, bank shot basketball court, Gaga ball pit, updated swings, and a pavilion with picnic areas. The community garden is also getting new shade structures, storage, and workstations. Join us for the park's official reopening on April 25th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. with food, drinks, music by DJ Big Boy, and a chance to enjoy the new amenities. That was all the announcements, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Moving into item 6, quasi-judicial hearings. During quasi-judicial proceedings, the Commission will hear evidence and render a decision regarding the matter presented based upon the evidence received. The parties before the Commission and the public are entitled to present evidence such as documents and witnesses, etc., and cross-examine any witnesses. All parties and witnesses will be under oath and the entire proceedings recorded. The Commission is not bound by the strict rules of evidence and may consider any evidence which it deems relevant and trustworthy. Any member of the Commission may ask questions of the parties or the witnesses. Since quasi-judicial proceedings are legal in nature, everyone is expected to adhere to proper courtroom decorum and etiquette. Any comments or objections should be directed to the mayor. The burden of proof in a quasi-judicial proceeding rests with the applicant. Therefore, the applicant has the opportunity to address the Commission last after all public participation and before the Commission deliberates. Mr. Zimmerman?
Thank you. And at this time, for items 6A through 6D, I will swear in staff who will remain under oath during the entire proceedings. Also, if there are any additional parties that intend on talking or testifying during the public hearing, I would ask you to also stand and raise your right hand. So anyone that would like to speak during these quasi-judicial hearings, and staff, if you could please stand. Okay. Now, if you feel like you need to speak later, that's fine. You'll come up and I'll swear you at that time. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you. Also, at the time when a vote is, if the commissioners have any ex parte communications they should disclose, that would be appropriate. A ex parte communication is if you received information from an individual that you intend to rely on for your vote, and it's not included in the agenda package or any of the testimony, then it would be appropriate to at least tell the commission and the public that you received the information. You don't have to indicate exactly what was received, but that would give people an opportunity to ask you questions at that time. And at the close of the evidence and during the deliberation by the commission, after the evidence is taken, then the public hearing will be stopped and the commissioners will deliberate. Thank you.
All right, item 6A is the first, of 2 public hearings on ordinance 33001, an ordinance on the voluntary annexation of approximately 2.89 acres of property located at 4620 Highway 390 East and 4622 Highway 390 East. Parcel IDs are 05916-025-010 and 05916-010-000. The applicant has requested an annexation, a future land use change, and a rezoning to General Commercial 2 or GC2. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on March 9th of this year. The Planning Board recommended approval unanimously. Staff concurs. This request is associated with the proposed development agreement between the City of Panama City and Lindsay Crossing PC LLC, and the following documents are enclosed in your agenda packet. Ordinance number 3300.1, staff analysis, report, and recommendation, the adopted map series, including aerial annexation, future land use and zoning maps, the survey, and the application narrative. Staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services is that the Commission conduct the first of 2 public hearings. Mr. Mayor?
This is a public hearing. If you wish to speak about item 6A, please come forward. Anyone on item 6A? Seeing none, I'm closing public comments. Mr. Zuma?
I'd like to read the the title, which would indicate the first hearing has been adopted, and this is 6A. And the title for ordinance 3300.1, an ordinance of the city approving the voluntary annexation of 2.89 acres of unincorporated property located at 4620 Highway 390 East and 4622 Highway 390 East into the city, as further defined hereinafter, amending the wards and boundaries of the city to include said land and providing for an effective date.
Item 6B is the first of 2 public hearings on ordinance 3300.2, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the city to reflect the land use designation of general commercial for a property located at 4620 Highway 390 East and 4622 Highway 390 East. These are the same addresses and parcel IDs as the prior item. Relevant background information is enclosed in your packet. Staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services is that the Commission conduct the first of 2 public hearings. Mr. Mayor?
This is a public hearing. If you wish to speak about item 6B, please come forward. If you wish to speak about item 6B, please come forward. Seeing none, Mr. Zimmerman, closing
Thank you.
public comments.
First reading of ordinance 3300.2, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan future land use map of the city to reflect the land use designation of general commercial for a parcel of property located at 4620 Highway 390 East and 4622 Highway 390 East, Panama City, Florida, providing for repealer, severability, and effective date.
Item 10C is the first of 2 public hearings on ordinance 3300.3, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city to reflect a zoning designation of General Commercial 2 or GC2 for a property located at 4620 Highway 390 East and 4622 Highway 390 East. These are the same addresses and parcel IDs as the prior 2 items. Relevant background information is enclosed in your packet. And staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services that the City Commission conduct the first of 2 public hearings. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, so this is a public hearing. If you wish to speak on item 6C, please come forward. Anyone on 6C? Seeing none, I'm closing public comments. Back to Mr. Zimmerman.
Like first reading of ordinance number 3300.3. The title is an ordinance zoning a parcel of property located at 4620 Highway 390 East and 4622 Highway 390 East, Panama City, Florida, having approximately 2.89 acres, GC2, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Item 6D is the first of 2 public hearings on ordinance 3301, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city to reflect a zoning designation of Neighborhood General, or NG, for a property located at 2209 9th Street East with parcel ID 15-010-000. As background information, the applicant has requested a rezoning to Neighborhood General, NG. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on March 9th of 2026. The Planning Board recommended approval unanimously. Staff concurs. The following documents are enclosed. Ordinance number 3301, staff analysis, report, and recommendation, the adopted map series, including aerial, future land use and zoning maps, and a survey. Staff recommendation to the Director of Development Services is that the City Commission conduct the first of 2 public hearings. Mr. Mayor?
This is a public hearing. If you wish to speak about item 6D, please come forward. Item 6D. Seeing no comments, I'm closing public comments. Mr. Zimmerman.
First reading, ordinance 3301, an ordinance zoning a parcel of property located at 2209 9th Street, East, Panama City, Florida, having approximately .524 acres, neighborhood general, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
All right, moving into public hearings. Item 7A is the second and final public hearing on ordinance 3294, an ordinance amending section 104-66 Gateway Overlay of the Unified Land Development Code, or ULDC, regarding special exceptions to prohibited uses inside the Gateway Overlay. As background information, ordinance number 3294, as proposed, will amend section 104-66, the Gateway Overlay of the Unified Land Development Code, by providing for special exceptions to prohibited uses. Specifically, this text amendment states that the City Commission may, by a supermajority on a case-by-case basis, grant a special exception to a prohibited use upon finding that the use is not prohibited by the underlying zoning district. The amendment further adds that the Commission may impose conditions and safeguards in order to mitigate potential adverse impacts and to ensure the intent and purpose of the Gateway Overlay is maintained. The prohibited uses now include the following: gas stations, vape shops, pharmacies, and dispensaries. Ordinance number 3294 was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on November 10th of 2025. The Planning Board recommended approval unanimously. Staff concurs. The item was tabled at the November 18th, 2025 City Commission meeting to the December 16th, 2025 Commission meeting, and was tabled again at the December 16th, 2025 City Commission meeting to the January 13th, 2026 Commission meeting. This item was tabled at the January 13th, 2026 Commission meeting to the March 24th, 2026 Commission meeting. And here we are today on April 13th. All right, ordinance number 3294 is attached. Staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services recommends that the City Commission conduct the second and final public hearing and approve of the ordinance. Mr. Mayor?
Mayor, could I interject one thing?
Yes, please do.
In reviewing the ordinance one more time, in case this was adopted today, we went back through the prohibited uses that were already listed, which starts at sale and use of mobile manufacture homes down to window tinting. There are 3 new prohibited uses that have been talked about today. But it was under item 18, adult entertainment. That is prohibited under this ordinance. It's also prohibited as a sexually oriented businesses. Adult entertainment is within that definition, but the reason sexually oriented businesses are prohibited, back in 1997, there was a series of findings of the adverse impact of sexually oriented businesses along tourism corridors. There was a study done. And so that our suggestion is, now that we're considering an exception to all of these prohibited uses, that we state clearly that sexually oriented businesses, that no special exception could be given to them. And so the suggested language at the end of the special exception to prohibited uses would be, however, under no circumstances will a sexually oriented business be provided a special exception due to the adverse impacts identified in Ordinance 1704 and amended by Ordinance 3058. And that's the ordinance back in 1997. So that just makes it clear that even a 4/5 vote could not give a special exception to a sexually oriented business because of this other ordinance that was adopted in 1997. So thank you for letting me clarify that.
Yes. This is a public hearing. If you wish to come forward and speak about item 7A, please come forward. Yes, sir.
Morning, Derek Thomas, 1100 West 10th Street. I noticed there on your overlay, 15th Street does not have the capability for somebody in a wheelchair to navigate that road. You have telephone poles in the middle of the sidewalk.
Is this related to the Gateway Overlay?
Yeah, the Gateway Overlay, the middle line right there on 15th Street. That one, you cannot navigate in a wheelchair. because there's telephone poles on the middle of the sidewalk on both sides of the road, and there's no way to cross over safely to get to the other side of the road, and it wouldn't matter because there's over 20 telephone poles in the middle of the sidewalk, which you have to cross back and forth over 15th Street to get to. So you're worried about that? Oh, we can't have strip clubs because they've been here for 50 years?
Does this relate to the changes? in the
That's overlay. You're making an overlay for the city, and you don't take into account how the people can navigate that overlay safely if they're in a wheelchair. But you're still concerned about regulating whether or not businesses can be there and what kinds of businesses can be there? I think you should pay a little bit of attention to the people that live here.
Thank you.
I'll pass that along to FDOT. As you know, along 15th Street, the city doesn't control the sidewalks or poles.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on item 7A? Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Walter P. Henry, 614 Maple Avenue. City Gateway, I know that we have other buildings that been there for years. We're going to, those folks that have license to operate at this present time, are y'all gonna have them, those license revoked? Y'all don't want those buildings there. Are y'all going to have them to beautify their building more better than what they are to make this pass looks good? So I know, because I knew that one building that person was there operating inside of Harrison. Y'all would not relicense that man because of because he had a mechanic shop there. Y'all refused to get him, to relicense him. I just wonder, is anyone else gonna have this same problem? When we do this, what we're going to do to the owners that own these properties, they're trying to make money as well as anyone else. Because right now you got a building sits on, and I'm on 98, and I disagree. And it's a utility shed that somebody going to make an office out of. Understand that it's legal for them to do that. I don't see how we would not let somebody put a trailer on their own property, but we can put a shed and operate it for an office building in the city of Panama City. So I just like to know what the difference is.
Yes, sir. Jonathan, can you make sure staff identifies the difference in the shed? Shed is a use.
That's the second time he's talked about that.
We've shared the information with them, but I'll recirculate it again. Everything is legit.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Dawn Blue Brown, 1618 Hamilton Avenue, here in Panama City, 32405. I'm here this morning. I'd like to discuss the special exceptions that you all have for 7A. I've been waiting for about 7 months on a decision. I'm a bail bondsman, and I'm trying to move my bail bonds. I pay rent. I've paid rent for 22 years. And there's a piece of property at 920 MLK Boulevard that I'm very interested in. And it seems as though I continue to be put off. So I'd like to know today, will there be an answer as to if you will allow me to have that building or not? Because, I mean, it's taken. I mean, I can't force your hand, but it's taken quite a while. I've did everything that's been requested of me, and I just like to know, and if approved, I'd like to know what are these special exceptions, because I don't want to get into anything blind. I want to know what I'm dealing with before I invest that type of money. So I would really hope that you all could make a decision today to let someone know, yes, move forward, or go in another direction. But thank you so very much for your time.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you for your patience, ma'am. I'm serious.
Anyone else on item 7A? Gateway overlay. Seeing no more comments, I'm closing public comments on 7A, and I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the additions that were added by the city attorney.
Second.
Discussion.
At the last meeting, we discussed, we did not discuss adding gas stations, vapes, and pharmacies. We discussed having a 4/5 votes. So I'd like to make a motion that we remove those three, but leave the, I'm gonna put my glasses on, the next highlighted under the special exceptions, prohibited uses, we'll leave that, but remove numbers 23, 24, and 25 in the list. That we did not discuss that last time.
I recall we did discuss it.
We
were
did
in
discuss it, we
disagreement.
voted not, we discussed it, we voted to leave that off and make it a 4/5 vote on the other.
There's a motion.
Yeah, unless there's
already
a
on the
second.
floor.
Yeah.
Substitute motion would not fail.
Do what?
Are you willing to amend your motion?
I'm not.
No?
I think your concern is valid. I just think it'll be fleshed out with the vote.
Okay. If we want to talk about gas stations, there's two guys out here in the audience that can tell us about how gas stations have worked and come up and come down. It's called the Free Market Enterprise. And if we'd like to hear about it, they're not building as much right now, I'd be more than happy to ask one of them to come up here. But for government to continue to want to tell people where they can and cannot do business is just amazing to me. And we need to let that work. We're a growing city, and by adding pharmacies, which are really after the weed dispensaries, you're hurting pharmacies, which we already know through a study in downtown we need. And I just can't get on board for limiting something that we've paid somebody to tell us that we need it.
Yeah, I think this allows us in situations like a pharmacy downtown to vote with a supermajority and let that through case by case. So this allows us some flexibility. It's funny, I agree with the free market stuff as a theory, and the number one complaint I get is too many gas stations and car washes, and you know, my family was in the car wash industry, so I know what that's like. But it's an interesting, when you're up here, you get, you know, overwhelmingly the biggest complaint I get is the gas stations and car washes. More than the budget, more than the fire tax, more than the potholes, more than all the other things that we get complaints about.
It's a running
gas
joke in our
stations.
city.
It
I
is.
mean,
You
we have
know
the
that
sign.
gas stations from Lynn Haven to Bunkers Cove Road have been added since the storm on the right-hand side? 2. That's it. That's the longest stretch that I can find of gas stations being right in, right out. And you know why we notice it? Because they're on 2 acres now. They're not on a small little site.
Sure.
Okay. And so it's a function of the national companies do much better demographic studies than we do visually, and and it said the demand is there. And guess what? As the demand was there, they kept building them. And guess what? You haven't seen is a whole bunch. So my concern is that we are picking and choosing winners and losers based on what we want to see in our ward, versus letting the market enterprise say enough's enough.
Yeah, we're moving to these sort of super stations.
Exactly.
And you know, when we met in the campaign over a year ago, we met with a bunch of people, and one of the complaints was, you know, a lot of gas stations' approaches are to undercut all the locals and lose money for 3 or 4 years and run them all out of business, so that their super station works. And I, you know, this is one of those things where it's you know, conflicting my traditional, like, let the free market handle it, and but you know, we get so many complaints about this. I worry that Panama City is the off-ramp where you get your gas and groceries before you go to the beach.
Here's another thing.
That's what we look like.
That nice lady that just got up here, this might not pass today because of these things. And we started this entire thing based on trying to get her property, one building in front of her, okay? And I asked then, can we make it a case-by-case basis? No, we can't do that. That was 4 of these ago, okay? Today, we're trying to vote on that.
But because these are on here, we might have a vote that turns it down again. And this nice lady is trying to buy something from us, put it on the tax roll, and we can't get okay with gas stations. Okay? Let's set that aside for a moment and let's try to do business with the person that wants to do business with us and put a business on MLK.
Yeah, this to me allows for more flexibility than previously, like case-by-case basis, supermajority. So to me, it gives us more flexibility to ensure that, maybe there's concessions of like, okay, we want you to add a bike rack to your thing or don't add a car wash to the gas station.
Well, then let's start adding, let's just make the list as long as we can then. I mean, the flexibility part is great, but we're picking and choosing which we want to be flexible with. Yeah. Based on one ward or other being more developed.
I think it was really interesting. So 389 and 390 is a great example of why this is a very powerful tool.
Where?
389 and 390.
Okay.
I call it the ultimate, corporate development triangle. It has 3 gas stations, one of them closed, and a Dollar General on Main and Main. And so this allows us to create, and keep in mind, some of this is asked for by the mom and pop businesses. I believe you guys were all circulated a vape shop owner that's actually asking in support of this because they are being inundated with national chains that have deeper pockets that are pushing mom and pop businesses out of business. So this is not anti-business. It is more intentional in what we get as a community.
So now we're going to regulate mom and pop versus national, but when do we regulate who gets to do business and who doesn't? That's how business works. I mean, I can't help if a national company comes in and can outspend me. So the only way I can help the mom and pop is to make them go away or not be allowed?
We're doing that.
I don't understand that.
I'm saying the exact opposite.
You're saying the mom and pop wants the regulation to keep the big guy out.
Or to at least keep space and distancing. And the city discussed this back in the 60s regarding gas stations. And so I understand what you're saying. I think maybe we have a slightly philosophical difference. I'm definitely from an open free market, but once you get to a point where you're oversaturated and over inundated with things, that is the time for us to kind of say, hey, we are the approvers of what is allowed and what is not allowed in the city.
And some of this that we're considering isn't whether it's oversaturated or not. It is opinions about what types of businesses we want on the gateway and what types of businesses we want in the major thoroughfares. And that's a discussion that we kind of skip around and don't have directly. And I believe that what we are saying here is we want a certain standard, and I've said this before, we want a certain standard, but do we get there by saying the businesses, or do we get there by saying what the design standards should be? Because the aesthetics is what we are most concerned about ostensibly, but there are some moral concerns when you look at this list as well. And so it's important for us to separate what our personal opinions are about certain types of businesses and what the community needs and what the local folk are trying to do in terms of helping develop neighborhoods. And the reason we're stuck here is because that's the sticking point. You know, what we think ought to be on the major thoroughfares and trying to answer the question for everything in this one piece of legislation. And so in the meantime, as has been said, we've had a business person held hostage to this process for months.
Mr. Mayor, I might be able to answer Ms. Blue Brown's questions real quick, and it might help also frame this discussion, if that's okay. If this is adopted today, Ms. Blue Brown, we've entered into a contract with her, and her intent is to put a bail bondsman's business on a piece of property that's within the Gateway corridor. So if this were to pass, then very quickly you would have before you the contract that would say she is requesting a special exception, and if 4 of the 5 agree to that, and then if there are any other conditions, and I believe there are already some conditions about the use of the property in the contract that we have. But those conditions would be there in front of you, and then if 4 of the 5 approve, then that would allow this one particular piece of property, which is presently city-owned, be purchased and then used for that purpose. So that's how the vote today doesn't grant the use to Ms. Blue Brown, but it does set up the pathway for this to be considered at the next meeting or the meeting after.
Well, and adding this ordinance change allows us to have conversations by case basis. We had a window tinting business come on 6th Street, and he rented a building and started working on construction, but he didn't realize you couldn't have that business there. And we were gonna have to undo all the ordinances, which cost a ton of money, and this allows us to have, we couldn't even have the conversation about case-by-case basis. This allows us to have conversations on a case-by-case basis. So, you know, this is an invitation to a conversation. This, to me, is not a hard no. This is except for the adult entertainment businesses. This is which actually brings more friction up here, you know, because if there's a hard and fast rule, we just go, oh, the rules don't apply. But this allows us to say, all right, we're going to battle it out up here, what we believe. And so it does put more pressure on us. And I'm accepting that's the job, is to have hard conversations in front of people.
So this includes the must have 4 votes. Supermajority, if we pass it as it stands now. And so where's the room for the conversation when we commissioners may already have decided what we're going to do no matter what? Where's that room for conversation?
I mean, that's up here, and it's up to the person to persuade others. And that's every agenda item. That's the job, is to change opinions. So.
Yeah, and I mean, my stance as far as long that this is not a hard no to anything except for, as a matter of fact, this adds more flexibility, not less flexibility. But in that same conversation, taking into account the areas that we know we have problems, whether it be with aesthetics, whether it be with distances between, this allows our team to be able to build the tools that allow us to go forward with creating exceptions for anything. Am I sitting here saying there'll never be another gas station in the city of Panama City? Absolutely not. I mean, I think that there are places probably need it, specifically in Panama City North. I mean, there's not a lot that's there. So, but to just allow every corner of our city to be overtaken because people are just traversing through our city and we're just a convenient stop is not something that's very pro-resident.
Panama City North and the Gateway overlay are apples and oranges. There's no comparison because you can put them up there. Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks coffee, Office Depot, Lowe's. You know what they all do? They all compete against each other, across from each other. Banks, they like to compete against each other. That's their model. You're saying that the gas station model that is working for them, for the business, you don't like. Okay. But we can't regulate something we don't like, to Commissioner Lucas's point. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's not a good idea. And all the big corners, you're pretty much taken up in the gateway overlay. So there's not much left unless you're going to buy it and tear it down. My concern is this, let's see, Ward 1 and Ward 2, we need a lot still. And what's going to happen is these national companies you're talking about, they're not used to waiting in line and saying, oh yeah, I need to get a conditional use so that I can go into that city. That's not what they're used to. And that concerns me. That we're saying to them, we're pro-business, but come in, we got to tell you that we're pro-business, just to you. And that's my concern. And so I would like to ask again if you would amend your motion to remove those and keep the other section in there.
I'll say I'll respectfully decline. However, what I will say is I am open to conversations on what gets allowed, where, and those things. This is not trying to create a hard stop on everything moving forward in our city. This is creating the flexibility to be intentional and to be methodical about what we do moving forward with development in the city of Panama City, specifically on the gateways.
Let's be clear. The addition of the 4 out of 5 is putting in place even more difficulty for you, for us, but for you all, to say what you want and what you don't want. It's already been stated, at least by one of us, absolutely no bail bondsman in the gateway.
Correct.
And so this approach doesn't, as you say, allow more discussion, particularly when you already have your made-up minds about what you're going to do when the vote comes.
I think I'm very protective over visually how we portray ourselves to others.
And those are design
Yeah,
standards.
every business gives a message to the community and the neighborhood of what they need there. And we need all the businesses. Visually, there are some businesses that don't need frontage. They can operate as they always have because there's a need for it. And visually, we should be very protective of ourselves. You know, bookstore signals, we read books. A bail bonds place visually on the corner of your neighborhood signals, this is where the criminals live. And I don't want any neighborhood in Panama City portrayed that way. So you can operate the businesses, you just can't be visually on our corridors, and that's what I'm protective over, visually.
So hearing that conversation, I think I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Lucas. And, you know, I think even in this case that we're looking at here, I believe that there were some options that were even presented that I know were circulated at one point that showed, you know, visually creating some type of buffering between the building and that operator. And I think that there are ways that we can now take a more nuanced approach where it's been, you know, a hard no. Perhaps there's landscaping buffering, there's a different approach that can be taken to get to the same result without having to say either a hard no or a hard yes, if that makes sense. And what this provides is a flexibility to say, hey, look, you know, in this case, you know, visuals matter. And so let's shape that visual so that we can get to the yes and allowing it.
But that doesn't address the hard no. Absolutely not. I will not support. And what we've already talked about the specifics of this particular contract request. But we also to entertain the process, and we want more development in the wards, especially the wards that need more development, i.e. Ward 2, Glenwood Corridor, MLK Jr. Corridor. And yet there isn't anything in our process that allows staff to move forward to bring us something that we can entertain. How many times do we really, as a commission, just allow a business person to hang in the balance for months while we kind of figure out what we think we might want to do?
Yep, I waited 2 years as a private citizen for a tax incentive for one of our projects, 2 years. And so anytime you work with government, especially if there's not a process and it's a thing they've never done before, they're unfamiliar with, it's super slow and frustrating for everybody. You know, with awnings downtown, every ordinance change, murals, everything we've changed in the city, just if it's unfamiliar, it takes a long time. And, you know, government moves slow, and I wish we moved faster, but that's just how we move. So if there's no other discussion.
Did you have money contracted, tied up?
Oh, yeah.
while you waited for 2 years?
Correct, $2.2 million while I waited on this organization. Yes.
I think this is a pathway to yes to things.
Yes.
I don't think this is a pathway to no.
Yes, any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
No.
Commissioner Lucas?
No.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
I'd like to read the title, Mayor. Ordinance number 3294 has been adopted. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Panama City, Florida, amending Section 104-66 Gateway Overlay of the Unified Land Development Code regarding special exceptions to prohibited uses, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Item 7B is the first of 2 public hearings on ordinance 3302, an ordinance.
Commissioner Lucas would like to say something.
Before we move forward, the special exception that you referred to, what is the timeline, Attorney Zimmerman?
As far as Ms. Blue Brown?
Yes.
I believe, my intent is that now that this has been adopted, I'll meet with City Manager Hayes and see about how quickly it can be placed on the agenda, because I know there is a due diligence period and we need to react to that, but at the same time, and Mr. Fuller, and see what we can come up with as far as what Ms. Blue Brown is willing to do to help mitigate some of the issues that have been raised today.
I would ask that we move with all deliberate speed in as
Yes.
much as it has been months
Yes.
in this regard.
And yes, agenda.
Yes, next agenda.
That's the goal. I mean, that's my goal, and I'm sure it's Mr. Hayes'
Absolutely.
goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 7B is the first of two public hearings on ordinance 3302, an ordinance to vacate and abandon an alleyway and platted easement southeast of the intersection of Mound Avenue and West 21st Street, north of West 20th Court. As background information, the applicant is requesting to vacate an alleyway and platted easement southeast of the intersection on Mound Avenue and West 21st Street, north of West 20th Court, of land designated as city property. The property does not retain any longer any underground utilities or any infrastructure. This item was previously reviewed by the Planning Board on March 9th of 2026. The Planning Board recommended approval unanimously. Staff concurs. The following documents are enclosed. Ordinance 3302, the staff analysis report and recommendation, maps including aerial, location, future land use and zoning, surveys, and the easement exhibit. Staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services of the City Commission conduct the first of two public hearings. Mr. Mayor?
This is a public hearing. If you wish to speak about item 7B, please come forward. Anyone want to speak on item 7B? Seeing none, I'm closing public comments. Mr. Zimmerman.
I'd like to, is this to be voted on?
No, it's just reading. First reading.
Oh, excuse me, I was still on quasi judicial. Ordinance number 3302, first reading, thank you. An ordinance vacating and abandoning an alleyway and platted easements located southeast of the intersection of Mound Avenue and West 21st Street, north of West 20th Court, Panama City, Florida, is more particularly hereinafter described, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for the severability of any part of the ordinance declared invalid, and providing for an effective date.
Item 7C is the first of two public hearings on the approval of the proposed development agreement with Lindsay Crossing PC LLC for a property located at 4620 and 4622 East Highway 390 with parcel ID 05916-025-010 and 05916-010-000. Background information encloses the proposed development agreement between the city and the owner and developer of the property located at 4620 and 4622 East Highway 390. The proposed term of the development agreement is 15 years. The primary purpose of the development agreement is to establish the pattern and intensity of future commercial development on the property and freeze impact fees at the currently assessed rates. The property consists of approximately 2.89 acres and is zoned General Commercial 2 with an underlying future land use of General Commercial. The following documents are enclosed: the development agreement and the exhibits. Staff recommendation through the Director of Development Services is that the City Commission conduct the first of two public hearings. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, this is a public hearing. If you wish to speak about item 7C, please come forward. Anyone on item 7C? Closing public comments. I'd like to, can we have a quick discussion on this? My apprehension, I love this project. I think this is great. My worry is the 15 years and sort of the banking of an entitlement that later, we've done that before where we have a very long entitlement that then later comes back to bite us, and that makes me a little nervous. 15 years, I'd like to see it closer to 3 or 4. I mean, kind of move the timeline faster for other projects, and this is larger, but what I worry about is something in 15 years and 12 years where that we no longer can really handle the entitlement that they've been given.
I agree with that statement, that we are here to help incentivize and help projects, not to lock in entitlements for, for 15-year periods and do land speculation. So if there's a project that's on hand, absolutely 100%, and that should be able to be accomplished well within the timeline that the mayor just described. But a 15-year agreement ongoing is not something that I would support.
Development agreements are locking in entitlements, gentlemen. That's what they're designed for.
Yeah, that's what I'm nervous about, the 15 years.
So,
We've
Might as well
done
give 'em-
10-year development agreements in the year that we've been here, more than a handful of times, closer to, and they're typically 10 years minimum.
Those are for 1,800 home units. That's not for a couple acre commercial
The
project.
Buccaneer has a development agreement on it. Timmett's Boatyard has a development agreement on it, and none of those.
I didn't do those.
Yeah, you did. You voted on the modification for the development agreement.
Modification to see it move forward. I did not vote to approve a 15-year or 10-year agreement for each one of those projects in its origination. And that's a great example, because think about how long those projects have taken because it just sat. And so we're here to help things move across the finish line, not to let it drag out for 10
That
years.
hasn't sat because of the development agreement. It sat because of the market conditions, and it sat because of money. It had nothing to do with it. And because of the development agreement on both of those projects, you're able to get residential there that today would not be under the different definition. So it's actually helping. It's not hurting.
Is there a way to do like a
mean-
segment where it's like an option that they come back and we vote again or something, where it's, I don't mind someone, what I don't want to do is, I'm worried about a problem in 10 years and 15, whereas they come back and go, we're doing it now, and we go, oh.
Oh, and we've got a
Yikes.
$1 million bill for an infrastructure improvement that we don't have money for, and that has happened.
I would suggest that since that you've spoken about this particular issue, that you allow, if they wish, for the applicant to come talk about this.
If the applicant would like to speak.
Hey, good morning. Nick Addison, 1571 Ruth Jackson Road, Bogart, Georgia. I'm here on behalf of the development company. No, I mean, listen, we obviously, the intent here is not necessarily for a long-term tied up of entitlements. It's really just to kind of protect the development that we have. I mean, I would suspect that 15 years is going to be more than sufficient for us to be able to develop this. So I think we would be open to a shorter timeline. Obviously, the one thing that as a developer you're always concerned about is the swings of the market and what that looks like. So we can't predict what happens tomorrow. So we're going to want to make sure that we have sufficient time in there to protect against if something happens and we couldn't immediately develop this. But that's, our plan is not as a speculative land play. This is a project that we hope to move forward with quickly. So we're not necessarily opposed if all the other terms of the development agreement are agreeable to this commission. We're not opposed to a shorter timeline.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tells me everything I need to know.
So how about 15 to 10? Since that's what we did, since that's what we've done as a customary thing around here.
Again, I'd like to see it be short enough to complete their project, but not long enough to obligate the city to unknowns.
Yeah, I mean, if they came back in 3 years and said, gosh, we need an adjustment, and we said, cool, nothing's really changed, and we're not gonna be shooting ourselves in the foot, I'm up for extending this thing. You know, the next commission or whoever gets these seats in X years can keep extending it. I'm just worried in 15 years when new mayor is up here, they go, gosh darn, I wish that previous commission had not really set us up to fail as a commission.
Alan, you
So
don't,
what's the number? I guess
I don't
that's
know.
what you just
Yeah.
asked. What's the number?
Yeah, I think a project can get started, we can, yeah, come on up. I'm just guessing, I have no idea.
they're bringing something out of the ground. It takes a while, okay?
Agreed.
As you know.
No, he doesn't. He builds, he buys buildings.
So let's
Okay,
ask,
there's a difference of bringing it out of the ground and buying a building,
I bet we
okay?
built,
Here-
car wash.
I'm not saying, I'm not slamming on you, but there's a difference there, okay?
We've only built
Go
about
ahead.
$12 million in car washes, but yes.
Wait, didn't we just talk about last meeting that we're going to cancel a contract because they didn't meet the requirements in the due diligence period?
Yeah, I wanted to.
Okay, then, so like, it's a valid point to say, hey, look, let's.
We're having a conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
So 3 years is, my concern is, I've had projects that are smaller than this that, and acting in good faith, 3 years is not enough time. And it just is, unfortunately, that is just the nature of our business, is sometimes things take longer than they anticipate. It's not because things had stalled out necessarily, it's just things take that long. I would suggest if a middle ground of 7 years, would that be I think that would be sufficient for us, even given some delays or market changes would be enough for us. So I would offer that as a middle ground.
I would recommend a, 3 to 5 with an automatic extension, should you guys prove through your due diligence, perhaps that site plan or something like that.
Well, and I think it'd be helpful in whatever years it would be that staff could make sure that maybe it's us still up here, but maybe it's someone else. And that group needs to know potentially what factors have caused this project to go bad for us and for them. And so that way they're educated on the topic if it comes back up here, or it's defined on how something's changed where we're shooting ourselves in the foot now.
So this is the first of 2 public hearings, and staff is going to take this back, and they're going to make any changes that we ask them to make. We're not voting on this today.
Yeah.
But we've heard from the applicant that 7 years would be sufficient. You're putting out there 3 to 5 with an automatic extension. I would suggest for this one in particular, why don't we just do 7, and then we can work with staff on what we would rather see out of these types of agreements. I think sometimes we get up here and we want to try to make the sausage on future deals, on the deal that's in front of us. And a lot of times that then causes, just as we saw with the last item, that causes a lot of consternation and back and forth with the applicants who are actually coming and wanting to invest in our city. So.
And I think to that point, this body perhaps should entertain a process that gets the sausage making out of here. Because as we are currently chartered, the 5 of us have to determine the decision. One of us can't just drive it and negotiate. That's why we have a city manager.
So I like your idea. I just wish that we could talk about it as a process in and completely separate from this issue.
I agree, and I think staff is used to going and doing 15-year agreements, and that's been to Robbie's point, that's been what the example is. But if you look at what we actually get out of those, we get a lot of long-term liabilities. We've entertained transportation impact fees. So I would hope that the staff would even take that into account, that, hey, look, like we're trying to fix the issues that we've got to tighten things up, and that means on development agreements too. So, yeah.
They could stay in the county and not bring us any money. I mean, we can do it that way too. I mean, that's the way to run them off.
We're not trying to run anyone off. I'm just trying to not create an issue for future mayor or future commissioners.
Okay, so I do want to make a point.
That's the nature
Why
of
why is this a point? And it has nothing to do with this developer. Thank you guys for your comments. We incentivized the Publix complex right next door, and we paid how much, Ms. Waldron?
$3.5 million for the
we-
road.
we were
That was a
responsible.
decision by the city manager, not by,
Okay, $3.5 million for the road.
3.9.
And we have a developer here that would like to connect to that $3.5 million road and not pay anything. So we are being a good partner here, trying to create an agreement. Our taxpayers paid $3.5 million for a road. The developer wants to connect for free. It's not unreasonable to have a shortened timeline that doesn't further obligate us.
Because the road's deteriorating,
Yeah, it's got to be maintained. It's going to have to be that. And
they're paying impact fees. But
that's what's waived inside of this agreement.
infrastructure impact fees, but they're paying water and sewer, all
What
those.
about the road?
Okay,
It's a $3.5 million road that's going to have to be maintained at some point.
okay, so we're gonna get them on, they're gonna get it on 390 and on us, and they're gonna do a traffic study to tell what the impact is gonna be.
Yeah, my goal is, I love this project, let's see it get it done,
Yep.
and let's move quickly, because we're appreciative of the project.
And I do like your idea.
Thank you.
Mr. Zimmerman.
There is no title to read, and that concludes the first of 2 public hearings on the development agreement.
Awesome. We are now in audience participation. This is when you can come up and speak about anything else on the agenda for today. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record, and also the agenda item you wish to speak on, so we can reference the materials you're speaking about. Please come forward if you'd like to chat. Don't be shy. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Ella Smith, And the first thing I would like to say, I would appreciate if you would speak into your microphone instead of looking at each other. I'm hard of hearing, and I thought if I came up front, I would hear. And I turn up my hearing aids, and I hear nothing, and I've been coming here for years, and I've always been able to hear. Up front, I can barely hear, but I don't hear anything. And I've been coming here, and I've always been able to hear, and I cannot hear you. And I think that's very, very sad. That's all I got to say. Number two, I live in the back of Venetian Villa. I read my notes, and I also have looked up my information, and from what I see, it says that it was advocated the road all the way to the end of Venetian Villa with sidewalks. The money was advocated, and it didn't happen, so I don't understand, so I need to make an appointment for somebody to tell me why that didn't happen. Three, I'm running for District 3 Commission in 2027. As I said, if someone didn't do a good job, I would be running for that position. So now I am running. 4, I don't understand why things changed, and now you all are not helping dredge the canals. As I said, I don't understand why things are changed and why District 3 Commission is not doing the same things to help Venetian Villa. We're on the edge, okay? And things are not happening for us, and we're not happy, okay? 4, I wish that you all would do the same to help townhouse homeowners as you do for homeowners. You don't do that. You don't allow for the 3-yard thing between the townhomes. You don't do that. I've been complaining for years. Somebody built actually on my property. Okay, you can go back and look at my complaints. They're there, 1247 Capri Drive. And my husband's an attorney, and you did it anyhow. It doesn't matter. So anyhow, my name is Ella Smith. I will be seeing you. I am running for District 3 Commission, and that's not going to change. Thank you very much for everything you do. I'm not real happy. People in Venetian Villa are very unhappy with the way things have happened. We're very unhappy with not helping us with the canals. We're very unhappy you didn't finish Venetian Way, and we're very unhappy with all the bumps down there. Come and look. You would not be happy either. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else want to speak about the rest of the agenda items today? Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Walter P. Henry, 614 Maple. Y'all have already voted on the Gateway overlay. I don't know if Ms. Brown already have a building already set in there on Martin Luther King Boulevard. I could see a building like that setting on a gateway to see a shed setting on the gateway. I don't know, it's business 98 going into Millville, it's part of your gateway or not. But we can prove a shed that it's authorized to be there. That you can have it. I don't see that. Bail bondsman, you tell me if you ain't gonna have a bail bond, you probably ain't gonna have a law office build on the gateway as well, probably. I don't know. I don't know what your decisions are. I know you're talking about gas stations. I think if you don't like it, they jam together. Everything is separate them where they'll be further apart to being right there together like we do have some To me, I think, listen to everyone, listen to you, what you're saying. City need money. Might be wrong. You get taxes. Probably get good taxes out of service stations. Because folks filling up their gas tanks. Right now, if I fill mine up, if I got a quarter of a tank of gas in it, costing me $70. And it ain't empty. For gas, y'all profiting as well as the state, as the person that owned the gas station. I don't know how much taxes y'all get out of gas stations. I believe you get a pretty good bit. The rate that things are now, that our president have said us, got us in, claiming he's God, but he's not.
Yes, sir, thank you. Anyone else want to speak about the remaining agenda items? Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning. Patty Sunday, 1115 Fairland, World War II Affordable Home Cottage, Commissioner Street. I wanted to comment on the Gateway overlay. Commissioner Robbie, when I was listening to it, and I really did enjoy y'all's robust discourse. I think it's very healthy. I like it. I also like it when Commissioner Brian Kissinger comes in and smooths it over. But it reminded me, Robbie, of a PUD. And those of us who have had the pleasure of putting together a plan unit development, right, that we know what a PUD is. When I was listening to all y'all in this majority, it reminded me of that because that triggers to do a deeper dive and really get your qualitative and ask a ton of questions, and a lot of people weigh in on it behind the scenes and then bring it back to the elected officials. So in my vision and listening to y'all, it may be that quality process that gets all of those questions out for when it comes back. Next thing I'm going to tell you, Mr. Sunday and I are now members of the MLK Center, and we both play basketball, and we play hard. 2 adults playing basketball. When we were there a couple times, eventually you need to have a bio break. And when we went to have that bio break, the staff shared with us that the bathrooms are locked. And they were very nice to let us both have our bio break, rehydrate, and go back out and do our drills. The reason it was locked is because the minors are vaping in the bathroom. So I really support this idea of limiting some of these things. I do believe gas stations sell vapes as well, but this is part of that wellness initiative. It hurt me to think that that was the line of defense, and I so understand it, but we see the teams coming in and they're vaping, so the bathroom is locked, y'all. Next item was on the report that you get from the city manager as it relates to ASAP. On the bottom of the chart, there's a bunch of NA. And some of it says honor roll, some of it says something like reading. And I don't know if that means that the 16 or 19 or 20-something people are reading books, they're reading pages. Are they in the honor roll? I'd like to see an upgrade in that qualitative. The new magistrate, how much are they being paid? How much was the previous one being paid? And I remember a long time ago discussion if that was a break-even department or it needed to come out of the general fund. So those are my thoughts. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Good job, thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Yes, sir.
Jonathan Upfold, 1741 Sherman Avenue. I'm employed by a local contractor and I'm part of the BCCA commission. So this morning I want to talk a little bit about the city doing the paving internally that y'all had discussed. At one of our local meetings, there was a member of the city come and speak.
Sir, that's not on the agenda. We only speak about agenda items. Yeah. Is this on the, paving is on there?
Oh, my mistake. On the last item, so.
Yeah. Oh. Not for action, it's just an informational memo.
My apologies.
Just my update.
Okay, so We had a member from the city come speak to us about the plan and how that was going to go. So at that meeting, the BCCA had some questions for the city, and I don't think we ever got any responses of those. And we had several items we just wanted to make aware. So basically, I'm here today to kind of go back over some of those, make the commission aware of some concerns we had and how you guys were coming up with the amount of money it was going to take to perform this type of work. So one of the first things that we do want to make aware too, paving has strict specs by Florida Department of Transportation. So if the city is going to do this, we want to make sure you're going to follow the same specs that any contractor would be if we were bidding that work as well. And if you do not meet those specs, there's going to be remedial work that has to be done, which then makes that cost for that project higher. Where if it was a contractor doing that work, that burden would be on us to perform that actual redo, and it wouldn't be a cost to the city. But if the city does it, it is going to increase that cost. Additional testing equipment that nobody's mentioned, or QC equipment, those type of positions are skilled as well. I don't know that you've had that thought about, or employees as well. Maintenance on the equipment, it's heavy equipment, has a lot of work, it has to be worked every day, so there's a big cost with that as well. Personnel, I read through some of this stuff, and like y'all are gonna have 4 or 5 people on a paving crew. It's very unrealistic. I have 12 to 15 people every single day to perform this work. So you're gonna have to get some additional people if you're gonna perform this work, and there's very few skilled people that knows how to do this work. Just with my company alone, we have people that live in 4 or 5 counties that come to work here. So just thinking you have people internally, I don't know that you have that skill set internally. Something to think about. Some of these processes have been put together as well. There's been no consideration for all the things that's included, such as MOT devices, stuff like that, certifications for their people, and just cost of moving your equipment all around. One thing is liquid that I buy in tanker loads. That liquid has a shelf life. If you're not paving every single day, that liquid is not going to stay there. So you need to be thinking about that and what you're going to do about excess liquid, or how you're going to store that. I don't know if you thought about that. So considering all the costs, I think it would be a good idea if the city would put together a package of roads to bid to some contractors, say 2 or 3 contractors, not one road like you've done in the past, but a whole group. And then let us bid that work, and you put your cost analysis together and see how close you are. And if you're way lower than 2 or 3 contractors, there's things that you're not considering.
I agree. Great questions. Can we get?
Thank you very much,
can we
sir.
get those questions circulated, answers circulated to us?
Sure.
Thank you.
So 2 things. When we get to this, if you don't mind staying, when we get to this agenda item, can we allow him, and I think there's some others in here, to come up and talk so we can have questions rather than just be on public participation? Because I think there is some action to be taken on this. We have a lease that is not signed, and it is not what we were told. So I'd like for us to have a deep discussion on this topic today. That I think
I worry we're going to open up 30 comments about every single metric in here.
Good, because they loaded it up today. I asked him, and they loaded it up with all the tough ones today.
I'd much rather have those comments in public participation. Yeah.
Well, okay.
Any other comments in public participation? Yes, sir. I definitely want those questions, and I definitely want those circulated to us and the BCC as well.
No, I'm talking about publicly. I think the city manager is suggesting that this isn't an actionable item. We have a lease that has not been signed, and it is not what we were told was going to come to us. It is $31,000 higher. Already we got a problem, and I think we need to have a very open discussion today about where we're going to spend money on something that this gentleman just identified what we shouldn't be buying.
I think a virtual workshop or a workshop on that topic would be a much better place than having a 2-hour conversation up here about every metric that's in that report.
Agreed.
Just for efficiency of conversation. Yes, sir.
Derek Thomas, 1100 West 10th Street. The county has the opportunity for the public to speak on agenda items at the beginning of the meeting, and then offers the public the opportunity to speak on any item that the dais can address. I noticed your last meeting on Saturday had about 6 people from the public out of over 40,000 people that live here. I think that's not a whole lot of participation. And I don't know why you're afraid of the participation, but anyway, number 10A, the marina downtown. Oh, before I talk about that, the person for the code enforcement that you're going to appoint, they used to allow those people to answer questions from the public. They stopped allowing them to do that. I've never had a highly paid professional person like the people that are deciding at that dais, at that code enforcement meeting. I've never seen it take them more than 2 minutes to answer a question. The only woman working there answered my question that I had wasted hours dealing with the code enforcement officers on in 38 seconds. But now you no longer allow that for the public. The downtown marina, you have spent $120,000. Do you still, at this point, know how many spaces are provided for the public, for the over 40,000 people that live here, to park in the downtown marina with your current plan? To have 162 apartments, each one is going to be rented at more than double what the St. Joe Corporation is paying for their hotel and restaurant. More than double, $26,000, and they're giving you $10,550 in exchange for over $2 million in income because of the location. You are giving away the most valuable thing that this city owns. I moved here 21 years ago because I was within 2 miles of 2 different marinas, both of which were owned by the public. The St. Andrews Marina is openly disrespected by the people that now run it for the next 34 years. More than 6 months out of the first year that they were in operation, they closed off all of the boat parking for the people using the boat ramp. And they ripped out the gazebo, the covered area, and I guess 9 months from now, or whenever you start work on the bulkhead, you're gonna have to tear out the trees too. I mean, what is for the public? When are you gonna do right by the people that live here? You are giving away something very valuable, and you are asking for nothing for the people that live here but a 2% kickback. And I find it offensive.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak about the remaining agenda items today?
To clarify, the boat ramp parking was only closed for them to do their construction process, and the pavilion was moved by the city due to life safety issues.
We definitely want pavilions. Anyone else want to speak today about the remaining agenda items? Yes, ma'am. Come on down. Commissioner Gordon.
Good morning. Julie Gordon, Film Commissioner, 2118 Ben Oak Court, Panama City Beach. I just wanted to preempt any questions that may come up over the commercial that we are going to be able to shoot hopefully on May 27th. We are going to allow for marine traffic as well as pedestrian traffic. So I just didn't want anybody to think we're just stopping everything. The walkers that come through daily, they're definitely welcome, and we're going to have some added bonuses for those people as well as the folks that are at the marina should this pass. So thank you so much.
Ma'am, thank you.
I think it's really cool that y'all have chosen here, and thank you very much for shooting downtown.
Very cool. Any other participation on the agenda items remaining? Seeing none, I'm closing public comments. Moving on to the consent agenda. As a reminder, items 9C was removed, and I will entertain a motion to accept items 9A through 9F with the exception of 9C.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We are now on item 10A. Commissioner Hughes, you are up.
Thank you, Mayor. As we step closer to hopefully getting the marina bid out for the slips, and we have met Dover Coal and they've come back, I think it's fair before the bids start going out and coming back that we clean the slate and have the downtown marina with no obligations from the city to move forward. For example, I and the mayor inherited all these projects, and one of which, this one had an interim agreement, and the interim agreement centered around setting up the fuel down there, as well as with CMP that we was already involved with, as well as doing other work and planning and projects. And it was understood that in the interim agreement, if we didn't move forward, that we would pay them for their time plus 20%. And so 3-2 vote happened, and CMP, we severed our relationship with them. And I'd like to make sure that the agreement that y'all created, the last commission created, that we honor that and pay that so that we can move forward. Just like I would imagine that we're going to pay St. Joe for the $400,000 that we have contracted with them to design the Concept 4, just like we paid Wood and Partners, I'm sure, just like we paid Dover Coal, I'm sure. There's no reason to pay this other partner who we have a contract with. I've said before that the problems with the contract, they start at the beginning when we're writing it. We just don't know when they show up. And anything that happens inside the four corners of that contract is all that we need to be concerned about. All the other chatter and what I don't like or do like, I don't get to use that as a reason not to pass it. For purposes of cost, I thought I would just point out that if we do pay St. Joe what we owe them, per slip, we'll be paying $2,666 per slip. If we do pay the $98,000 today to CMP, we'll pay them $1,963 per slip. Okay? And none of that would have happened if the city hadn't asked CMP, or actually the Harrison guys, to go get the permits. They're responsible for that, and part of that fee is in here. So I would respectfully request that today, that I'd like to make a motion that we pay the money that has been, the invoice that's been submitted, and we get that paid off before the bids go out. So that the bidding companies know that there's nothing on the marina that can be a stall point for when the bids are opened up.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's discuss it.
I feel like we've already taken this action. I'll read our minutes from January. It says Commissioner Street motion for approval to get the monetary amount from the city marina partners and settle up on what expenses were incurred on the interim agreement, and allow city marina partners and any other owners to bid on the project. City Clerk Treasurer Janet Smith clarified the motion is to settle up with marina partners and allow CMP or any other owners to bid the project. City Attorney Never Zimmerman advised the commission would like to terminate the interim agreement. There was a roll call vote. We voted 5-0. So I don't know what
That agreement said that we paid them money. We did not. The agreement says that we paid them. All we did was terminate the agreement.
I believe the dispute is on what is allowable expenses to be billed to the city. I think that
you
has
already
been the
took care of the
dispute.
20%. You had that removed. Okay, so that part, you're right, and that did not qualify. But it's my understanding through talking to staff and the attorneys that everything that's on there is allowable. I believe that it's my understanding that you have a problem with the hourly rate. And so the hourly rate, which was not anywhere part of the interim agreement that you helped craft, should not be a consideration right now, because what you crafted was a $250,000 cap.
So
just like with the St. Joe, just like with Dover Coal, and just like with Wood and Partners.
So you're saying that we should pay $450 an hour for every meeting that they've had?
I'm saying we should pay $98,500. I don't care what it costs. I don't care the hourly rate. I care about that we have a contract that says something, and we're not following it. We did it the other day, okay, to bring back your extension on the due diligence. We have contracts, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, and we need to follow them. And we need to do it with what's inside of there and not create a reason not to. But this is a perfect example right here of, if I'm a bidder, I'm concerned about bidding on the marina because this problem, I want it to go away. My intent is to have it cleaned up so that we can have an open discussion with a bidder and they know that they can move forward on this marina. That's it.
So, every department, even my own house, actually, we had a bunch of AC work done about 3 weeks ago, and my wife looked down the quote that we got and said, you guys didn't put the air grill in that we paid for in this agreement. And they came and put it was a $150 little air intake grill. But every department at the cities, their job is when they put out a contract that has a scope of work, is when they get a bill back is to go, did we get what we paid for? And, I played a role in potentially all these questions because I got the hourly rate time log submitted to us. And when I look at this agreement, it was a figure out how we get boat slips study. And what was submitted back to us was line items for amphitheater feasibility, traffic flow of patterns of traffic on the marina. It wasn't about the slips. They submitted a document to me that seemed out of scope, that related to a project that they pitched to us, not what we asked of them. Now, I'm not an attorney, but I sent Nevin an email and said, seems like we didn't agree to a lot of this stuff of like, they're figuring out we're not paying them to figure out their project, we're figuring out how to do a project in the slips. And I said, it seems like this is, because if you came into a car wash, my family used to own car wash, you came into the car wash and I rotated your tires and changed the brake pads and you were like, I just came here for a car wash, there would be a problem. And so I'm asking the attorneys is, the work, the time log submitted, we didn't submit it. They submitted their time log of here's what you owe us, here's what we worked on, seemed out of scope to me, the non-attorney. And that's what I asked.
Seemed out of scope for me too, but I'm not an industry expert. How can you say it seemed out of scope for you when that's not what you do?
Well, it is what we do when we have to vote on it, number one. Number two, what I'm hearing is the hourly rate, which was contracted in the beginning, that we agreed to, yes or no?
No. No.
Okay, then secondly, the scope concerns that the mayor has just addressed. So it hasn't been paid, and how do we determine what is to be paid to move it forward?
Would you like, I could provide some context
Yes, please.
For us. This is, the issue is the interim agreement. And the interim agreement, the purpose of it was to do some work, interim work. That's why it was called an interim agreement. One was to provide some fueling stations, or at least one, and then the other was to continue pursuing permitting and design work of the wet slips. And the agreement and the purpose also was, this was during discussions for a long-term agreement. And the provision was that if a long-term agreement was entered into, the work associated with the permitting and the design would not be paid. It would be rolled into the long-term agreement. But then the agreement has a clause that says that in the event the parties fail to reach a mutually agreeable long-term relationship within the term of this agreement, the city will reimburse CMP for all reasonably incurred engineering and consultant costs associated with the design and permitting of the basins at actual cost plus 20%. This is work that was done by the actual parties and not independent consultants, but they were acting as consultants, but they weren't independent. They were related. So when the agreement was terminated, the interim agreement was terminated, the request went to CMP, what cost do you have that haven't been reimbursed? They'd already been reimbursed for the fueling station cost, and this is what was received. I then placed it on the agenda, but then later removed it because of some good questions that were answered, and the mayor had asked some questions in particular, and others, and to take it back and see if there was any further information that I could provide for the commission prior to asking you to vote on it. And some of the questions were what we've already heard, is that first we got a timesheet and then we got a narrative description of what was done. So if you read the two together, it tells a story of the work that was done. And under the contract, then the city is to reimburse for engineering consultant cost associated with design and permitting of the basins. I went back to CMP and I said, look, these questions have come up. Is there any more information you can provide? Is there anything you'd like to do different? I had not pushed the issue, so I have not, until Commissioner Hughes put it on the agenda, I then revisited it with CMP. As far as, is there anything to add? And as of yet, they're not saying they won't give us more information. They just haven't, and I have not pushed it. So that's where it is. If it's something the commissioners would like to, get resolved sooner rather than later, which I do think is a good idea in light of the bids coming back, we can go back and see what can be accomplished and maybe provide, you give me input now, that would be helpful, and then I can go back.
If we look at it from the prism of, we wanted a clean slate for the public.
Oh, no, that's not the prism I'm looking through. I want to
public.
pay for the scope of work that we agreed to, the contract.
Okay, but Alan, we didn't negotiate that deal.
I know,
You
but
got that much of this.
If the
and you're trying to
contract
eat- you're trying to
outlines
eat the whole
what we
elephant.
were trying to do,
Okay.
and they came back with more than we anticipated, they should have said, hey, the scope of work has changed.
Do we need to add up all the hours that you got with them that they're charging for?
They did. There was
They charge for you for a lot of the days.
And I had
you
no
were with.
idea, actually, they were charging me, and that's fine. I'm willing to pay for those. I never said I'm not going to, me personally, I will always pay for what is in the scope of work submitted. But if you submit things that seemingly might be outside the scope of work, we should have that
Okay.
discussion. That's what
So
we're
let's talk
having
about the
today.
amphitheater. You know why that happened?
No, and I want to
Because
see.
Woodland Partners showed up, Woodland Partners showed up, but nobody knew about
Yeah.
it. It was a surprise. And they had to have a meeting about it because they were involved in trying to figure out parking where that was going to go. But nobody told them about it, so you had to have that. Does that count as they're trying to understand the project that they're trying to do?
That had no effect on the slips. That is
That-
not an eligible
There's
expense
no
under the contract.
amphitheater in here, there's no
The amphitheater was
traffic in
next
here.
to the basin, and there was no parking there. That has everything to do with slips.
I mean, that's.
So Josh, are you looking at saying no payment at all?
No, oh, no, no.
I don't think
Absolutely
anybody
not.
is saying
No,
that.
no. I
Okay, so
believe
what-
that we are, that
What is your
we
number
owe
then?
something.
What's your number? Let's make a number and see if that's something that they'll take.
Commissioner Hughes.
I'm trying to find something to make it go away.
Commissioner Hughes, you have presented us today under your Commissioner's Report section, a discussion. So you're asking us to come up with a dollar amount in the moment to pay for a contract that nobody up here disagrees that they did work, right? Nobody is saying that they did work and that they're not supposed to be paid.
Right.
Right? So everybody up here is in agreement that they did work and they should be paid.
Fair.
Okay?
Okay.
But to come and hand us two stacks of paper and then say, hey, let's decide today and right now, I am not prepared for that. I'm prepared for the agenda at hand, but I'm not prepared for something to be dropped in and then say, hey, vote to potentially spend $100,000 of taxpayer dollars. I think they should be paid. I think everybody else up here says that they should be paid. I think the argument is over how much. And when we have a dollar amount on what that should be from staff, then we can argue about that dollar amount. But today, I cannot vote on just spending $100,000 when I haven't spent enough time to be prepared to discuss this or to think about it because it wasn't on the agenda.
That's fair. Well, it was on the agenda.
Well, it was. This
I didn't add it.
This wasn't. Yeah, that's my point. Is that I'm getting handed stacks of paper and hey, decide how to spend $100,000. That's not how I like to do business, and so.
Well, honestly, I didn't know those stacks of paper were coming, by the way.
Okay, but as it stands right now, I want them to be paid. I want them to be paid for the work that they performed, and I voted with you
Yes,
because
you
I
did.
think that was the best path forward.
Yes, sir.
So I think they know where I stand with this.
Yeah.
But today I am a no because of
All right.
just the.
Well, and that's fair.
quickness.
So I'll rescind my motion, but can we have, would y'all like to, we can put some pressure on it. Would we like to try to clean this up before we send out the bids for the slips? That way we know we got it done? I mean, that, now it makes us really think about it. And that didn't happen today.
I think personally, we have notated that the contract is canceled. They have the freedom in our minutes to go and bid the project if they want to.
This isn't about that, Josh. It's not about them.
We're ready to go out to bid on 50 slips. I'm not
I know.
willing to just say stop for us to go back and forth on a negotiation on whatever.
Put
this
time
was.
pressure on us in our
Yes,
negotiation. Yeah.
it's putting pressure on us.
Because if we say that, if we give that to anybody, if we were to say, hey, we are not going to move forward until we have this other contract squared away and paid off, then they could, not saying that they would do that, but we could find ourselves in a situation where litigation is lasting so long, we're in this another 2 years without 50 slips being built. So not on our side of the table's fault, if that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I think I'm talking about the litigation piece, but I would rather not get into that. I'd rather move forward with both efforts. I just think that we should put a timeline on when this contract should be squared away. That
Yes.
should be the best thing, not tied to anything else.
How about before we accept any bid? Because it's going out for 60
We're not
days.
putting a false pressure on ourselves to negotiate a contract. So my biggest thing is from now on, I don't want such vague contracts that don't have caps. I want much clearer contracts of scope of work, checkpoints, caps, and I don't like surprise, and I don't think anyone likes surprise invoices. That's what we have here is a little bit of a surprise, and so.
But also go back to process, because at some point as that process was happening, we, the city, knew they were meeting, we knew we had them under contract, and we knew it was in reference to the downtown marina. None of that was clarified. So I don't agree that it was like, ooh, it's a surprise, like they're trying to get over on us.
No,
But it was
no,
a
what you mean.
process that was followed that created where we are now. And so if we can clarify our operating processes and be more mindful of what we contract people to do and that we not ask or set up situations where they operate outside of the scope.
I think one of the things that came out of a conversation I had with Devin is any consultant that we use should be on a monthly contract. Like we should be able to see invoicing, not see stuff stack up for 6 months and then be surprised. Oh, I didn't know I was getting charged for that meeting. I had no idea. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So I think monthly invoicing would have avoided probably a lot of this, and it would have been caught very early on. I would have asked the question much earlier on. So I do think there's a lesson to be learned here.
Just for a couple of things for clarification as we go back, and even though I'm still young in my career, I do learn things, and I think this is all very helpful. And but just to put it in context, the offer was made because we have been involved in permitting, the William Harrison and Cooper. Then we can continue working on permitting and don't worry about the cost, because we're hoping, that we're going to have a successful conclusion to a long-term relationship, but only if something happens would we be entitled to be compensated. I think next time we have a separate consulting contract rather than trying to roll it all up into one. And I think that's an excellent idea, and it was just an unusual situation where you had a proposer that was also, had been actively gifted in getting an exemption from the permitting and all. So that's the context, but we can work our way through it. But what I've heard is that there's issues about what are those reasonable hourly rates that a consultant would charge. And that's something that we can, obviously, I will go back. Also, the other thing I've heard is that is the time that was submitted related to the scope. And the scope, although it's general, it's also fairly specific. It has to be associated with the design and permitting of the basins. So the scope of work has to be related to that. So I will go back and get more information on that. And if you think of anything else after this meeting, I know you'll let me know, and I'll work on that as well.
Don't open that door for them. No.
It applies, it doesn't apply to you, Commissioner Hughes. Thank you.
The motion has been rescinded.
Yes.
And we're moving on to item 10B.
Yeah, so I don't plan on making this a very long discussion. As we've gone through this, we are maybe getting a little more refined in what we're trying to tackle involving historic buildings in our city. I would like to see us move forward with something that is, one, acknowledging the national things that are on the National Registry. We have about 7 buildings that are in the city. I'd like to see us protect those from a municipality standpoint. And perhaps we want to do further work by a Historic Preservation Board on additional items beyond that. So I'm really asking for today is, are we at the point where we can give instruction to staff to bring us back something on historic preservation and ordinance for us to vote on and craft in the way that we would like to see it fit?
I'm supportive of the premise of protecting old buildings and then incentivizing rehabilitation. My concern is that in the draft findings and the research we have, ongoing requirements of inspections from architects and engineers on people who own old buildings. I think there are other ways to do that without putting a burden, because that cost gets passed through to the tenant. Ocala, there's a bunch of other examples. That's my only fear.
I think it's great feedback.
As long as it's city buildings only and no private buildings.
No, we'll disagree.
Okay, because, no private buildings and no mandatory private buildings. It has to be voluntary.
If somebody's already added their building to the National Historic Registry, they have already voluntarily submitted to the process of getting a governmental designation for historic.
That's
I think
fine, but
that should be
voluntary.
very clear.
Voluntary, not mandatory.
Yeah, I own a building on the National Register. I voluntarily own this.
Right. But
So a potential path forward, because I'm kind of torn on this one, a potential path forward could be if you want to participate, it's completely voluntary, but if you then go and add, from this point forward, if you go and you add your building to the National Registry, then you would fall underneath these things that we're looking to potentially create.
I would.
That's not how Josh
No,
wants to do it.
and
He
the
wants to
reason
bring it forward
why,
and tell them.
the reason why is like St. Andrews School is a great example of that. Right now it has a National Historic Registry designation on it. You know, the potential of seeing that removed from that is a fear that all of us have in the community that want to see historic buildings protected. I would say the same thing with any of the facilities. If someone has voluntarily gone through the process of being on the National Registry, that means they are acknowledging that there is historic value in the building. We should be willing as a city to provide the additional protections that are needed to see that. And, you know, and there's various ways to accomplish that. Now, other ones, you know, what else gets added on to that? I think that there's other ways of accomplishing that, but I would like a baseline of, if you're on the registry, and we have all of the historic buildings in the entire county. And so I would say we would automatically add those in, and then additional ones could be voluntary, could be some type of process.
Have you
And I
talked
think
to the
that's where
private owners?
That's where the sticking point is.
Yeah.
It's the addition and who determines whether
That's
it's
right.
voluntary or whether we, the city, say it's mandatory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
these are all private people that you're going to tell what they got to do with their business, with their property.
The only thing I'm asking for to not be voluntarily is if it is a national and a recognized historic building now, that it be protected.
Have you asked every one of these property owners, are they okay with you telling them just because they made a decision a while back to do something, now we're going to tell them what they can do with it?
Well, you have two that have deed restrictions on them right now to be historic, so they don't have
Well,
a choice.
That's because the seller
So-
put them on there when they sold the property. That's not the government telling them.
So why don't we just have a meeting with them
Yeah.
and have the conversation?
Yeah.
Instead of putting the thumb on them and saying, you can't do this now.
Because I
We
think
ought
some
to
of
at
them
least
are
talk to
owned
them.
by government entities.
Huh?
I think a couple of them are owned by government
Well,
entities.
the St. Andrews School is,
Well, we have
and
the old
that's it.
City Hall, that's
City-
one, right?
Yeah, so there
City
are,
Hall.
this actually is one of all the historic preservation ordinances, with the exception of the inspections, one of the weakest criteria of buildings. Most cities, when you walk around, you go, man, this place looks cool, they got a lot of old buildings. 20 years before you arrive, it starts with an ordinance like this where everyone gets pissed about. And then 10 years later, you go, wow, they got a lot of nice old buildings. And they've created a culture where they save buildings, they cherish their buildings, they tell the stories of their buildings. But it all goes back, before you've arrived and noticed the buildings, someone has protected them and upset
I
people.
agree with you. I think we
Yeah.
have, as a city, lost treasures that we should have preserved. I definitely agree with that. And I like the idea of creating the culture. The question I think Commissioner Hughes is raising is, are we going to mandate the culture? And before we move to ordinance, having that conversation with those business owners and with community, or those property owners and with community, I think is a natural next step, together with, not mandated by.
You know, part of it's, I agree with that. Part of it's like, you know, I won't be here on the earth forever, and you're almost protecting my buildings from my children tearing them down. And so, you know, maybe one day my children are like, my darn dad, you know, helped push this ordinance that protects the buildings that we own. But I have buildings on the National Register, you know, the SAP house is and the county was going to tear that one down for a parking lot for 12 spaces. And it took, you know, the county being collaborative and recognizing that structure, and it took, you know, a couple of us putting in money where it made no sense, and creating the culture of, you know, downtown has old buildings, and we don't rush to make things parking lots, you know. And it's so much easier just to tear something down and start new. New construction is way easier.
And I believe there are others who share the sentiment that you just expressed, who have the means, who would do it. The process that we move to get us there, I think, is what's important.
So if it's okay with the board, could we give just simple verbal instruction to staff to try to craft something that meets what the criteria is of the feedback of the board?
I'd rather table it and follow Commissioner Lucas's idea, and let's talk to these property owners. We can talk to ourselves right now, because you said City Hall, but I mean,
we kind of need to know what we're asking them to do.
You
like,
can do both at the same time.
Exactly, Commissioner Granger. It's not either or, both and. We can direct them to include these community conversations as part of what they craft to bring to us.
Fully support that.
Well, I agree, and then we can totally pair that with, and if you're willing to rehab the building and save it, we have great tax incentives. We have aggressive tax incentives in our CRAs.
Yeah.
So, I like that.
Okay. Feel like you.
Is there consensus to work on that?
There sounds like, you know, a few of us.
Would you like?
Government telling you what to do is not a good idea.
I would appreciate.
There's consensus.
I would appreciate a vote.
Okay, so Devin appreciates a vote. So I'll motion to instruct staff to work towards a historic preservation ordinance, as well as discussion with each one of the owners of historic buildings to get feedback on what that may look like.
So Commissioner Hughes, you
An
don't
ordinance or a
Both.
framework?
It's both.
It's both.
It would be, the framework would be adopted
You have a
by
problem with how
ordinance.
it's implemented, right? You have a problem with telling private citizens what they can and can't do on their own property, and I have the same concern, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that we should tell staff, hey, go ahead and work on this so that we can see what it looks like before we move forward. So that's all I'm saying about that.
So is that framework going to be mandatory, or is it going to be volunteer?
Sounds like we're going to discuss it.
That's what we're
Sounds like
going to
we're
discuss.
gonna discuss it.
Maybe multiple choice.
That works.
We need more to discuss.
That works. There's a consensus there, Nevin.
Okay. I have a motion on the
Thank you,
floor. Do I have a
Brian
second?
I'll second.
Oh, you're going to make.
Yeah, that's what Nevin asked for, yeah.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I mean, this is
Restate
just,
the motion.
Yeah, restate the motion, please.
To give instruction to staff crafting, working towards an ordinance, as well as discussion on, with the historic property owners in the city, to solicit feedback in the crafting of that.
No.
Does that help?
No, because what's the ordinance going to say?
We don't know.
Okay.
Like, that's
You
the
said
point.
create an ordinance with,
you're going to get.
I didn't.
talk to
I
staff
literally
about
gave
it.
no
Okay.
instruction to what that ordinance looks like. I mean, I can't get any more broad than this.
that works. That
Talk
works.
to staff and provide your inputs into it.
Any other discussion at the motion in hand? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
12A.
All right, item 12A is consideration to approve budget
was
amendment
removed from the
resolution number
agenda.
2026. 2026-0414.1 to utilize infrastructure surtax funds in the amount of $92,321.00 for bid PC 26-010, generators for fire stations 1, 2, and 6 and wind retrofit. As background information, on March 10th of 2026, the commission approved invitation to bid PC 26010, generators for fire station 1, 2, and 6 wind retrofit to BGN contractors in the amount of $624,000.00. The Florida Division of Emergency Management is in the process of approving the amendment to the HMGP agreement grant number H0727 and M0093 for the budget increase, and it's just going through the paperwork process right now. The current construction budget for the grant is $531,679. The budget amendment will cover the budget increase of $92,321.00. And staff recommendation through the fire chief and the city manager's office is that the commission approve the budget amendment resolution 2026-0414.1. And I'll just note that we're just in the interim using the surtax funds in order to keep the project moving as quick as possible. But we've already been given the approval on the budget amendment resolution. We're just working on updating the paperwork and the purchase order process. Mr. Mayor?
I will entertain a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Any discussion?
I do. So one of the things that I talked to them about is two things. One is procuring before we have the grant agreement in place, puts the infrastructure surtax money at risk. The second is if things don't go the way that things are described, this will be the second time I brought this up specifically with this pocket of funding, is that we need to be notified as a board when things don't go the way that we intend them. I do believe this is an eligible expense for community block development grant funds. However, we have no way of knowing, are we procuring it the correct way? Are we doing those things? And I think it would be prudent to either one, wait, or two, require notification if things don't go the way that they're intended to right now.
I'll modify my motion to include a requirement for staff to bring this back to us if they have any reason to think that it would not be reimbursed by the grant that they're seeking.
Great. Thank you.
Any discussion?
I agree with that amendment.
Yes. A modified second.
Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Budget Resolution number 2026-0414.1, a resolution providing for the amendment of the approved fiscal year 25-26 budget to utilize infrastructure surtax for the Fire Station 1, 2, and 6 wind retrofit project.
Item 12B is consideration to approve budget amendment resolution 2026-0414.2, transferring $93,875.00 from the Law Enforcement Training Fund to the Panama City Police Department for training equipment. As background information, the purchase of training equipment and aids will support a variety of department training programs, including de-escalation, defensive tactics, K-9, taser, and firearms training. This equipment will be utilized by all sworn officers to enhance training capabilities, maintain proficiency, and support safe and effective service to our community. Staff recommendation to the Chief of Police is that the Commission approve this request.
I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I'd like to read budget amendment, resolution number 2026-0414.2, a resolution providing for the amendment of the approved fiscal year 25-26 budget to utilize funds from the law enforcement training account for training equipment for the Panama City Police Department.
Item 12C is consideration to approve budget amendment resolution 2026-0414.4 for the use of state forfeiture funds to purchase a vehicle and equipment for the Panama City Police Department's mobile command trailer in the amount of $105,025.00. As background information, the Panama City PD is seeking to utilize state forfeiture funds to purchase a 2026 Ford F-450 capable of towing the department's mobile command trailer, along with the materials and technology equipment needed to outfit the trailer for operational use. The trailer will support incident response and large-scale operations by providing on-site command and communication platform. Staff recommendation to the Chief of Police is the Commission approve this request. Mr. Mayor?
I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger,
Yes.
Commissioner Street,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas,
Yes.
Mayor Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Commission has adopted Resolution Number 2026-0414.4, a resolution providing for the amendment of the approved fiscal year 25-26 budget to utilize state forfeiture funds to purchase a vehicle and equipment for the mobile command center for the Panama City Police Department.
Item 12D is consideration to approve Budget Amendment Resolution 2026-0414.5 to accept and expend funds from the 2025 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant in the amount of $25,290.00 and approve a transfer of $1,014 from the general fund to the grant fund to complete the purchase of SWAT ballistic vests for the Panama City Police Department. Staff recommendation to the Chief of Police is that the Commission approve this request. Mr. Mayor?
I will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion approved.
Second?
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger,
Yes.
Commissioner Street,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas,
Yes.
Mayor Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Commission has adopted Resolution Number 2026-0414.5, a resolution providing for the amendment of the approved fiscal year 25-26 budget to accept and expend funding from the 2025 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant for the purchase of ballistic vests for the Panama City Police Department.
Item 12E is consideration to approve Budget Amendment Resolution 2026-0414.6 for the purchase of a small street scrubber for the streetscapes areas, parks, paths, pedestrian areas, and other parks in the amount of $218,340.00. As background information, the city currently does not have the proper equipment to efficiently clean the new Harrison Avenue streetscape pavers, as well as other areas around the city and our parks with smaller sidewalks and paths. This sweeper scrubber includes a 1,000-liter water tank, will give us the ability to not only, again, scrub the pavers, but also has the appropriate attachments to clean sidewalks, multi-use path, and other pedestrian and gathering areas around our entire city. As requested by the City Commission at the November 18th, 2025 meeting, an RFP for outside operators for specialty street sweeping and cleaning was done, and a cost analysis calculated comparing the cost of purchasing and operating the equipment in-house versus outsourcing this work to an outside operator. This comparison has been documented in a memo that is included in this background information and shows a significant savings giving assumed service levels by keeping this operation in-house. Staff recommendation through the Director of Public Works is that the Commission approve this request and the accompanying budget amendment resolution. Mr. Mayor?
I will entertain a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Second?
Do I have any discussion?
Yes, we do. If y'all haven't figured out, I'm the guy who doesn't like a lot of this stuff up here and tries to change it. So, all right. Can we agree on something? Let me ask y'all a question. In our conversation last time, was our discussion around into 2027? Was it around every sidewalk and park? Was it around putting out an RFP that required that you either use the same scrubber or really the RFP was set up to really make it be about using the same scrubber if you read the RFP. I don't believe that our conversation and our vote match the RFP and the scope of work. And if you've had to read the RFP and looked at it in order to get there, that's my first issue. The second issue is staff's comparison. There's some pretty big holes in it when it comes to the city side, in my opinion, and that helps get to the $675,000 savings, which I think is incorrect. So first question is, would y'all agree that the scope of work that we asked for and the conversation that we centered around was Harrison Avenue? The cobblestone is why we needed this. Remember that we are too heavy for this. We have two street sweepers that one never works, I'm told. It's always one is broken. That's Alan said last time. Hey Jonathan, why didn't we clean that up after the Christmas parade? Oh, it was broken. And so now we need this new one to take care of the cobblestone. But now it's expanded into this massive construction sweeping project. But even into 2027, I mean, there's things in there that we never even were talked about with us. So it makes it so that there's a savings, 100% by keeping it in-house, because the RFP was also done not on an hourly basis, okay, but by a base bid basis. And staff told us that the city pays $18 an hour and that the company pays $30 an hour. I don't know how that was extrapolated out, since that's nowhere in the bid package, which we did not receive. Okay, I had to ask for a copy of that. So my concern is that we are dealing with information that is incomplete, and that the staff side of this on the in-house part, we don't even factor in the full-time employment and all that goes with that. Okay, so I'm concerned that we have a number here that is not correct, and I would like for us to table this. I'd like for us to not buy it, but I'd like for us to table this. But this is proof that, remember, it's the gift that keeps on giving, okay? And we can't get our numbers right here, and we're comparing an apple to an orange here. And my concern is that the numbers are wrong today and they're going to be wrong tomorrow.
Okay, I'll add some stuff. Because I voted against this last time.
Yes, sir.
And being a private business owner, I can make purchases and I don't have to justify them to anybody. Well, maybe my wife.
Yeah.
And so if I want to buy some new equipment in history classes, my partner and I would go like, well, we don't have to have much justification. But we, as elected officials, our job is we have to explain the decisions that we make. And so when this was initially presented, it was like, we need a street sweeper for Harrison Avenue. And it was like, okay, well, we're not buying a piece of equipment just for Harrison Avenue. And that's when staff went out and said, okay, well, you can use it for a whole bunch of other stuff. I said, well, that has to be in the packet so that the public can see it, that we can explain it, point at it, and not just verbally. Our job is to ask them, ask questions, and their job is to answer them so that we can answer them for the public. And so the other thing that we said was, maybe this should be privatized. I'd like to see things privatized when we can save money and deliver a higher level of service. And it was, you are correct. One of my feedback and my concerns was, before I was elected, it was after the Christmas parade, and I was out there picking up trash that was blown all the way to Jenks Avenue. And so part of our job is making policy. And so for me, my policy is, my expectation of a vendor is the same of our staff, which is I want, specifically after parades, they should be cleaned up within 6 to 12 hours. Because what happens is you wait and they blow everywhere. And so to me, if staff is doing a street sweeping, a failure of that department is not being able to clean up after a parade. And so that's the lens I go, okay, if they can't do that, then we should privatize it. But they did the exercise, and you're saying the exercise of justification of internal versus external it was apples to oranges. That I don't know. I know that they answered the questions I had with putting it out and showing other uses of this machine. And so I went from a no to like okay, you answered my questions kind of thing. So
would you say that, well, did anybody look at the bid package? Because it wasn't given to us. Did you ask for it?
No.
Okay. So, let me pull it up here. We asked in clarifications. I think that the bid, we did not ask to put out an RFP for somebody to come in and street sweep with the machine that we're going to buy, did we? That was not our vote. But the bid requires that. It was a clarification that if you're not, that's what we want you to sweep with, and if not, we have to approve your street sweeper. That was in a clarification.
Well, the whole point was the pavers and the sidewalks and
I get it, but that drives the cost up.
But do you think it was unreasonable to have that in the RFP?
Yes.
When we know that if we don't set those parameters, then what is used could ultimately destroy or badly damage the investment that we've made in the streets.
Yeah, it's like saying you need a dump truck and then they bid with an F-150.
It has to be about the same size. It doesn't have to be that one, is what I'm saying. It can be a similar machine, same size, but not that make, model. Okay, that would be okay.
How much cheaper do you think an alternative machine would be?
I'm not worried about the cost there. I'm worried about the requirement that we did not put in this RFP, and what we voted on are not the same. This whole thing is predicated on that they did what we asked them to do. And I just 100% disagree that they did what we asked them to do. We asked them to go out and get a service contract, and then they should have said, these are all the things that we're going to ask for. And that's not what happened. We saw that only when we got this package, and then it did not show what the actual bid was. And now we know why, because it's not an hourly contract, it's a base bid contract.
Did the vendor that responded, did they contact you with this information?
No, I wouldn't done, I wouldn't done, I've been doing a lot of homework on this.
Yeah, I know clearly. I mean, for me,
die on this hill.
Part of what our job is whenever someone, I always feel like a little blindsided when someone's like, everyone's complaining about a thing. I'm like, I didn't get any complaints. So
Exactly.
If I would have gotten street sweeper companies from across the country going, man, we could have knocked this out of the park if this RFP would have been worded differently, I would have been like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. But I didn't get any, no one said, there were no local vendors that said, oh, if you change the specs of the RFP.
Yeah.
We could,
What we're hearing is when are y'all going to clean the pavers, because they're starting to look pretty bad.
So-
Look, Mr. Murphy, our public works director, did a lot of work on this. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Mayor.
So I would just like to make a few comments before Clint talks. One, this is one of the first items that have come up since we had our vote on giving backup documentation to validate the ongoing cost when we purchase a piece of equipment. I think it's a good moment for refinement. To some of Robbie's points is like, hey, like the actual cost of a city employee is not $18. And so we need to make sure that we've got an accurate amount. Maybe there could have been alternatives in this, but what I come to, because of this exercise is still helpful, even if those amounts were off, because it shows almost $700,000 savings over the period of 3 years. And even if there was a different machine that was $50,000 difference, even if their numbers are off by twice on the employee count, they're still showing an in-house savings.
Okay, where are the call-outs on the in-house cost? Where are the call-outs? What we're requiring from the vendor, we're not requiring of ourselves. Okay, that's the problem. This comparison is not the same. So when it says the contract up here for $230,000, that's inclusive of all of his equipment and his insurance and his employees, everything. And all we're showing is a little bit.
And you're saying that you think our costs are under, that this is actually going to cost us
extremely under, yes, sir.
$675,000 over. So next year we should be $300,000 more than what the staff is saying.
If we save $675,000, I'll give you my next 3 years' salary. Okay, that ain't a lot from around here, but that's but. That is wrong. It is. We are not going to save $675,000.
Well, I think, Clint, you've got the opportunity to kind of explain.
Thank you. Clint Murphy, your Director of Public Works. So our staff has done a considerable amount of work on this. It's been 5 months since we brought this before you and we've got about, between legal, purchasing, and Public Works, probably 60 hours worth of work that we put in since then. On the piece of equipment, so we've done a lot of research on what works with those pavers, and we came up with this specific piece of equipment. So what we asked of the contractor in the bid was that you produce this machine or something similar. So we did not require this particular piece of equipment, but we wanted the ability to approve something that we knew would work.
The wording in that, Clint, was not exactly that easy. It was, y'all very much strongly encouraged, okay, that this piece of equipment be used. That's how it's
or something similar.
Okay, but very strongly encouraged, and then or something similar that you had to approve.
Yes.
Does that keep a bidder out?
No.
No?
It does not.
You think
We
there's
use
some
that
people
kind
out
of
there-
language on a pretty regular basis.
Okay.
So in addition, so we did, and there's a picture of Matt
Can
running.
we go to the
one.
next slide, please?
That's great. So we did establish a basic service level of what we anticipated needing. And then on top of that, we did ask for hourly rates associated with special events and emergencies, like a oil spill or a hydraulic spill. So we anticipated those, and they did provide an hourly rate for those. We also considered overtime for our employees that would have to cover the same. So yes, it was apples to apples.
No, sir, where in your comparison are our full-time employees?
See,
There are none.
There are none.
We're going to use existing staff. We're going to use existing staff. We're going to cross-train people in our PCR department.
Y'all charge us all the time for people going back and forth. I want it in here too.
If you look at the last line before the total, it talks about overtime. So that's the call out. That's the emergencies, and that is the special events.
Okay, so $50, 50 hours of overtime at what number?
I don't have those.
When you required it of the bidder, why don't you have the number for us?
I do have those numbers. It was provided, Charles Gibbs, which is our assistant superintendent, did these calculations, and he had all those numbers, but I can get those for you. And I would have been happy to sit down and talk with you before this meeting.
I'd love to see these numbers anytime we get promised. I mean, it's the same with the vendor. Whenever we get this, Jonathan, same with the asphalt crew, anytime we're given projections, we want to know those ongoing when things are going awry. And so, is there any other questions for?
I do want to make sure that moving forward, I understand what Robbie's saying. Let's make sure that we've actually got the staff time allocated to whatever's happening. So if they're spending 40 hours a week doing this, that would be nice to see in your comparisons. And so, but I did not catch that, so that's why I didn't ask.
Well, it's not going to fundamentally move the numbers, but I agree that it should be included.
Yeah.
So originally, we did consider an extra staff member, and we did the same calculation, and there was still considerable savings. It's about roughly $100,000 less than what we're showing.
How about do this? How about doing a comparison, the way you asked the bidder to do the way you fill out, you do the bid the same way we asked the bidder to do the bid, and not be general like you did here. Can we do that?
We can.
Okay,
yeah.
let's do that, and let's be transparent that way, and then let's come back and talk about it. Can we do that?
I think if you guys are going to use the existing staff, Clint, just putting down the hours, like what if it's a maintenance man level 2, if it's whatever it is, just put those down. I mean, I think that's helpful just from looking to, but I do agree with Commissioner Granger's point. I don't think this is going to fundamentally move the number, a massive astronomical amount. So I still agree that there is most likely a savings bringing it in-house.
There's a motion.
Yeah, a motion on the table in a second. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
No.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Did I make these on a double X?
I do have to leave. I was supposed to
Mr.
leave 12 minutes ago.
Zimmerman?
Thank you very much. I do want to say thank you to staff. I hope that you all support the Bay County local agreement, the next item coming up, and I also support the Girls Inc. Agreement coming up. I won't get to vote on it because I won't be here, but I support it, so we'll see what happens. Thank you.
I would like to read the title
Please do.
to the resolution, and it is Resolution Number 2020-6041-4.6, a resolution providing for the amendment of the approved fiscal year 25-26 budget to utilize Environmental Services Fund reserves to purchase a street sweeper.
12F.
Item 12F is consideration to approve an interlocal agreement with the Bay County Board of County Commissioners and the City of Panama City to apply a roadway transfers between the two named jurisdictions. This agreement is authorized by Section 163.01 of Florida statutes. Relevant background information and the interlocal agreement is enclosed in your packet. Staff recommendation to the Director of Public Works and the City Manager's Office that the Commission approve this request. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I will entertain a motion to accept.
A motion to approve with the addition of a reciprocal clause. So should there be a road that is 50% or above county that the city has, it should go both ways, under the same terms. So we're agreeing to the same thing.
Do I have a second? Sure, I'll second it. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Item 12G is consideration of approval for a long-term lease agreement with Girls Incorporated of Bay County for the shared use of the Oakland Terrace Clubhouse located at 1900 West 11th Street in exchange for the property located at 1100 Fountain Avenue with Bay County parcel number 18764-010-00. Relevant background information is enclosed in your packet. Staff recommendation through the Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation, as well as the City Manager's Office, is that the Commission approve this long-term lease agreement and transfer of property. Mr. Mayor?
I will entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mayor, I have a couple of things to add.
Give them to us.
Real quick. First, I wanted to highlight that there is a provision in this agreement for payment. The city pays closing costs. It's not a significant amount. Minimal costs for title insurance, recording fees. Also, there's a 5% realtor commission based upon the appraised value of $245,000. And that's shared equally between Counts Realty and Realty One Group. That's $12,250 divided by 2. So, I mean, I just wanted to highlight that. The last thing I wanted to highlight is that there is a provision that Girls Inc. has requested that I do believe is reasonable, and that is in the event there's a hurricane or something else, a fire that renders the Oakland Terrace building unusable, that the city would agree to work with Girls Inc. to find another mutually acceptable space. In the event that space cannot be found, then remember the agreement it's based upon the fair market value of $245,000. It's a 6-year term, and that every year you use a portion of that $245,000 toward the rental price. So if in year 3 the hurricane happens and no alternate space can be found, then the unamortized portion of that $245,000 the city would agree to return to them. For example, that would be 1/2. So it'd be $122,500 would be given back to Girls Inc. because they could only utilize the building for 3 years and not 6. And that would only occur if the city and Girls Inc. couldn't find an alternate location. That's not in writing. It's not an unusual provision, but if you're comfortable, I would suggest that we add that at the request of Girls Inc. And did I fairly state that addition? Okay, I got some heads nodding, so yes.
We would love for you guys to be able to find a building sooner if you guys get to, and I think that's what you guys would like as well. So I perfect support you guys.
Awesome. Is the lease, I want to make sure the lease has all the normal landlord stuff that specifies who pays for what when things break kind of
Right.
stuff.
It'll be a standard lease. This is an agreement, and I believe that all the terms we have set out, it will not need.
They've worked with the city on, the available space for the city to still use. They've been very easy to work with, and I'm very glad that we're able to get this done right before the finish line of y'all having somewhere to go. So, good to go.
Perfect. Anything else?
No.
Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Item 12H is consideration, approval, and execution of a purchase contract between the City of Panama City and Jason Kretzer and Catherine Fitzsimmons Shores concerning the property located at 447 Harrison Avenue, known as the Breezeway Project. During our December 16, 2025 meeting, the Commission voted to approve the proposal submitted by Jason Kretzer and Catherine Shores, request for proposal PC 26-017 for the Breezeway project located at 447 Harrison Avenue. Staff has met with the proposal and drafted a property sale contract, including addendum number 1 that outlines the terms of the agreements. In summary, the city will sell 447 Harrison Avenue for $10 to Jason Kretzer and Catherine Fitzsimmons Shores for the development and operation of retail, restaurant, or office spaces, including 2 ADA-compliant public restrooms and maintaining the pedestrian walkway. The city will be responsible for the reasonable maintenance of the restrooms, including both supplies and cleaning, following completion of the construction and the seller's acceptance. The closing date is set for on or before October 30th of this year. and the construction should be completed no later than August 1 of 2027. In the event the buyer does not meet the development milestones, the property will revert back to the city. Staff requests direction from the commission today on their desire for us to move forward with this proposed agreement between Mr. Kretzer and Ms. Shores. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, the recommendation is a direction, so do you want a motion or do you want a discussion?
You gotta have it.
Random discussion?
Yeah, ultimately, there would need, if you want to move forward,
So
there'd be
I'll
a
entertain a
motion.
motion, but for some direction.
I'll make a motion to accept staff's recommendation to get discussion going.
Okay. Do I have a second? I'll second. Discussion.
Looking for you guys as a lead more than anything, so.
So we're asking them to build a bathroom that we're gonna take care of. So that's giving us an easement on the entire thing. Are we gonna do that?
Well, the easement would exist, Commissioner Hughes, regardless of the bathrooms. As a reminder, this is a breezeway, so you've got the easement for people to move from Grace to Harrison.
Right.
But in addition to that, y'all have
We're gonna
said
add
y'all
an
want
easement
to add
for the
bathrooms,
bathroom,
yes.
Because that's gonna now be private property in that bathroom. We're gonna make sure that we can have access to that.
I guess that's a good question. Would the bathroom be considered part of the easement or separate from that easement?
I believe the easement is for the walkway, and it would make sense that we have a use agreement on the restroom. And the use agreement would say it's open to the public, and also that it would, the city, the hours, and the city would be in charge of maintenance obligations.
All right,
So
and we will lock those doors like we do the one at McKenzie Park at night. Now, how does that work? Is all that, how's that going over there at McKenzie Park? Is that when?
My recommendation would be we do similar hours so that there's a reasonable and consistent expectation in the public. It's a challenge. I mean, I think public restrooms are a challenge in general, but I think based on my observation that the good outweighs the bad. I mean, I know a lot of people do use them during times, but I mean, they remain a challenge for the police department and for our Parks and Recreation department, but we try to stay on top of it as much as possible.
Would the hours at the park be what's needed in a breezeway, given that we've got restaurants around there?
Question.
Well, I think the breezeway could remain open, but the bathrooms be secured. So you could, just like the retail shops would be secured at 8 or 9 o'clock, the bathrooms could be locked at a different time and still have that breezeway for, say, House of Henry that might be open till midnight. If I understood your question.
Yeah, that was the question.
The bathrooms would be separate doors totally from the breezeway. I think the breezeway stays open pretty much all the time.
Ostensibly, we've got more people circulating after 9 or 10 o'clock downtown proper, where the businesses are located, than we do in the park.
Makes sense. She said those stay open later than the ones in the park, the public restrooms. That makes sense. Because you're crossing back and forth through the.
Do we need to craft this language in this agreement, or is this something that, like, we can just have control over operating hours for the restrooms?
Yeah, that's true.
Excellent question that came up about the use agreement. Ms. Shore is here, but I don't believe that specifically has been discussed as far as operating hours. Obviously, she's very interested in how that's done as the city, so I believe that would come back as far as that use agreement on the restroom goes.
Once the construction is done, it would be appropriate for us to bring that back so that both the city and Ms. Shores and Mr. Kretzer know what we're agreeing to as far as the bathrooms.
Right. And Ms. Shores may want it to come back before closing to make sure that everything's in alignment as far as how the restroom is operated. And the closing isn't scheduled until the end of September, I believe, or October.
Yeah, and a quick, how did we get here? This property was traded for like 2, 3, 4 years ago?
3 years ago?
Yeah, it was a long time ago
Yeah.
with the point of having a cut through around that block so you can get to Grace Avenue quickly, because the city's had plans for like 30 years to put a parking garage behind the Martin Theater. And, I think the fair market value of that building was like $400,000 or $380 or something at some point. And to Robbie's Commissioner Hughes' point, when you start putting stipulations on a property, it lowers the value. And so we said, gosh, we just spent $270,000 for bathrooms in McKenzie Park. And we also want this space to have a hallway right through the middle of it, and we wanted to have these sort of things. And they said, okay, well, you're adding more burden to the, and we had a group in Pensacola say, we can do it, and then they couldn't do it, and they wanted a whole bunch of money from us. And so we put it back out to bid and said, all we care about is a cut through and a bathroom, who wants it? And so Catherine and Jason have stepped up to meet the demands so we don't have to build more public restrooms. They are, we just maintain them. And I think that's fair. What I wouldn't want, we're going to get blamed for the bathrooms are public and they're dirty either way. Right. And we already have staff cleaning public restrooms downtown. So I'm in favor of this. I think it's a collaboration, and they're taking the burden of building the thing out and all the above. So
People investing in their hometown is a good thing. You know about that, Mayor.
Yeah. All right, we have a motion and a second on the table. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Street?
Approve? Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Item 12I is consideration to appoint Matthew Goldhagen for a special code enforcement magistrate through the request for qualifications bid number PC 26-026. City recently published a request for qualifications advertised for 2 different 30-day periods. During each 30-day period, 1 proposal was received each time. Pursuant to Section 2-750B of the Code of Ordinances, the city manager may recommend to the city commission 1 or more candidates to serve as special magistrate. Before you today is the recommendation through the Director of Development Services and the city manager that the commission appoint Matthew Goldhagen Esquire as special code enforcement magistrate for the city of Panama City. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I will entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just for Mr. Goldhagen is here. You might want to, there he is. And he did.
I wanted to also add a couple of questions, not necessarily for him, but I want to make sure that the public had questions that gets circulated to us. One was pay. So send us all the stuff about pay, and then anything about public comments being removed in those meetings. I don't know the context of that, so it'd be good for us just to have an email with those questions answered.
Sure.
Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Mayor, thank you for having me here. I think you had some questions for me. Is that right? I can introduce myself quickly. You have your bid packet there. Matthew Goldhagen of Goldhagen Law. We're at 502 Harmon Avenue. My wife and I, Jillian Goldhagen. And we've been in this community about 7 years now since graduating law school. I was prior military for 20 years. I retired last February. I did 10 years active duty, 10 years National Guard. I served as a firefighter for 3 years up in Georgia. I've served my community for 20 years, my whole adult life. This is kind of my way to come in and try and continue serving my community. I always look for more and more ways to get involved. This popped up and I applied, and thank you for considering my application. I think my experience of 20 years military, litigation, firefighting makes me a good fit to apply everything I've learned, experience in law, experience in life, experience in infrastructure, everything like that. I think makes me a good candidate to sit and represent the city and everything like that, and not represent the city, but decide these code enforcement matters and help citizens in the city come to good results in this situation.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you.
This is a seat that I don't take lightly, because my dad's a magistrate, and when he got appointed, there were 1,056 cases, and they've been working on it and working on it and working on it, and we still have a long way to go. Beautification is something that we strive to work on every day, and the code enforcement is a large part of that. As far as pay, I can promise you, he's not charging the city as much as he's charging his private clients, and so he's doing this is more servant-led than money-led. But I just wanted to thank you, and you have my support.
Thank you, sir.
And Commissioners, I will answer the questions, Mayor, when you forward them to me, but it's $290 an hour that they charge. That it will be in the engagement letter. And Evaluation Committee looked at Mr. Goldhagen, and he has also had experience in front of the Code Enforcement Board, and this is being recommended by them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right. And item 12J is just our monthly report that we provide to each of y'all in regards to all of the ongoing operations. And then additionally, just in an effort to continue to share information and kind of where we are, there's been a lot of actions around the paving crew going all the way back to October on multiple different meetings. So the plan and the thought was just to kind of just memorialize it all here. There's no action, again, needed today. I already have authorization to move ahead. Public Works Deputy City Engineer Matt DeVito is happy to speak to some of the additional costs. It's just after we were given approval to move ahead, then we brought in some additional demonstrations, and there was some equipment that we saw, some add-ons that are well within the spending authority of either the Assistant City Manager or the Director of Public Works. And so that was added on to that. But again, just sharing information and putting that out there. And I mean, any questions on the operational report or that, we're happy to entertain them. But again, no action needed today from the board. We're just, again, keeping you guys all apprised.
Yeah,
So, Mr. Mayor?
I'd like to just suggest, and I think part of this is Robbie's point.
I'm sorry, what, sir?
I want to just suggest, and I think this is part of Robbie's point, is when we have cantankerous issues, and it is within your spending right, and you can totally do it, it helps us to know. And so just sending it to us of saying.
I think that was our goal here with this. And
Yeah,
I
so-
kind of backfired, but I
Yeah.
mean, so, yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, I want to do what you guys want me to do, Mr. Mayor, and I sincerely thought that's what we were doing with this today, trying to be above board, provided the lease that I already have the authority to sign. And so.
But you had the authority to sign it, Jonathan, at $1,700, okay? The lease now,
$1,700.
For the benefit of the public, the city wants to buy a paving machine to pave roads, and in order to buy it, we're going to take money from the housing department 4 times, and because you can't buy money with that money, buy anything with that money, you can lease things. So we're going to lease it for 6 months, so that we can use this money and then turn around and we're going to close on it and we're going to buy it. And when it was presented to us the first time, that fee was $1,700. Do y'all remember that? Okay, that's turned into $31,000 when we're going to do that transaction. That is a significant difference. That's 30 times what we were, I didn't vote on it, I didn't vote in favor of it, but what the votes were yes for. That is a significant change. That is not a minor change. And whether you have the authority or not to do that, to me, does not matter. Because this is $30,000 of taxpayer money that is actually housing money. So we just had this thing yesterday about housing and how much we need to help. And we're getting ready to take a bunch of money, Matt, not right now, please, okay? We're getting ready to take a bunch of money from the housing department to buy something that this gentleman up here says that we are woefully underestimating on, okay? He's the industry expert, okay? With all due respect, Matt, you're an engineer, but this guy, this is what he does for a living. This is an opportunity for us to reconsider spending this amount of money, which we probably don't need to do, but more importantly, taking it from places that we don't need to take it from, particularly the housing department, to do this. But here's my concern. If we're 30 times off on the beginning, where have we missed on the backside? How much is it really going to cost us? That's my concern.
Matt, you want to help?
No, Matt, thank you.
Matt DeVito, Deputy City Engineer in Public Works. So, yeah, Commissioner, to answer the question about the 31K, and I'm just going to speak in round numbers, but so it's not housing money that's paying for that?
It's CBDG money.
No, sir. The paver lease is paid for that on the beginning?
Nope. Nevin? You told me that money was coming out of housing for the lease side.
Hey, look, it might be helpful, it would take maybe 1 minute to go over my letter, because I think that answers some of these questions. In my letter, it talks about the terms of the lease. But first, payments are $43,000 a month for 6 months. Total lease payments are $263,000. That is the money that's coming from housing, $263,000. Then there's a purchase option price, and that is $296,000. That's the number that is increased because of some additional equipment that was added. So instead of the purchase option price being $1,700, it is now $31,000. So it's similar to buying a piece of equipment that you added to it. And so that was, but from the housing funds, it is $263,000. But the $31,000 would come out of operating costs, I understand it, within Public Works.
But the housing money that's coming out, we're using it because we're using it as a lease, not as a purchase. We're doing a workaround so that we can use that money out of housing so that we can buy something we don't need. That's my concern. We have to come up with a way to use it when it's not allowed for the purchase. That bothers me.
So have we confirmed now, to Robbie's point, and this was part of my concern early on.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't have to do with the program now that we're talking about it. What I'm concerned about is now, we're utilizing federal funds to purchase a piece of equipment. Are we going to be under federal disposition to utilizing the equipment moving forward?
Yes, there are terms. You have to use it for low to moderate income areas during the term of the lease. And that is, the term of the lease is 6 months. And you cannot purchase the equipment. There is, Sheila wrote on-point email to HUD on this issue. And they, in a typical federal way, they didn't exactly answer it, but they almost answered it, which is that, yes, you can only use it for a lease, and the money can be used for that purpose, provided that equipment is used to service low-income areas as far as the housing statistics go. Now, is there a possibility that when there's an audit someday, somebody may say, oh, well, I don't think this was done quite right? There's always that possibility. If that were to occur, there is funding in the Environmental Services Department to pay for it, but that I feel comfortable that it does qualify for the HUD financing, and this is a lease payment. So at the end of the lease term, then what do you do with the property? Do you turn it back, or would you exercise the purchase option? The city is proposing, the proposal is that the purchase option would be exercised with general fund money by the city. So it's not housing funds that are purchasing the property, it's general fund money that's purchasing it.
So,
And it's optional, just to be clear.
If I may, $43,000 for 6 months is the loan, the lease.
Per month.
Per month.
For 6 months.
Is the lease. That totals $263,000, and that comes from the housing department.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. At the end of that time, if we purchase the equipment, it'll be an additional $296,000?
No, it'd be an additional $31,000.
That you will take from what?
Take from their operating funds within Public Works.
My concern is, and this was brought to my attention by somebody that knows way more about this than I do. So I'm not trying to pretend to be an expert here, but when you get into federal disposition, there are limitations on internal departments purchasing certain items. And so that's why we've gone back and forth a little bit on this internally. And I go back to what I was saying very early on in this process, that trying to intertwine housing funds into this complex arrangement is ultimately setting us up to potentially not have it go exactly the way it was. And we're already seeing that. It's already having to change and modify. And, federal dollars, specifically in this pocket of funding, really complex. It's already a complex process. I don't know how to fix that because the only other option is utilizing other funding as a result of it.
Don't do it. Just don't do the program. Let the private sector do it.
Well, with all due respect, Robbie, I mean, the board has voted to do it, regardless of how you and I both felt about it. There comes a point in time
Honestly,
where
I
you
don't
try to
think
be a
so.
good
This
partner.
lease is not executed.
So is that why you changed your position? Because
It
at
did.
first you supported it, and I was surprised when you said no. We had added roadways in your ward, and without discussion, you said no. So
Yeah.
I was,
It's being consistent in it, and that does have a lot to do with it. I'm getting more, as we've taken more time to study and understand these specific pockets of funding, I've gotten a little bit more information, and I did not solicit an opinion on this particular thing. Somebody from another community reached out and said, hey, I don't know that this is actually what you can do. Have you guys thought about X, Y, Z? And so I asked questions, and we started to see some gray areas, and I started to get a little uncomfortable because, I mean, I've been through now 3 audits going through the 4th since I've been here. And, you know, we got a lot of needs in a lot of areas. Whether or not this is the right one to use it for, I think is kind of that. So it's really, my critique is not so much of the program. I mean, granted, I am very much that staff needs to deliver on what they said they're going to deliver on, but this funding is going to continue to kind of be a little more complicated.
And it's only going up. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know this gentleman's name, but he is an industry expert. We are not. And he just told us that what is in print is wrong. Okay? I'm gonna take it for face value that we don't have enough money built in, we don't have enough employees, because here's the answer: hire more people. We got too many people already.
Well,
so that's my problem.
The disposition, and I go back to the funding issue, the disposition up until this point has been, well, we'll use it for that, and then in the budget reconciliation process, if it's not eligible, we'll go back and backfill the funds. And so we've done that for many years. And what I'm saying is, like, let's make sure we can actually do this before we go and do it. And that was my point. But,
I
you
would
know,
have appreciated your just telling us what you found prior to your no vote, because it caught me.
I understand.
And this is another, I say this word a lot, but this is another part of our process where if the 5 of us have to make the decision and only 1, 2, or 3 of us know certain information that drives your positions, and we're not at liberty to it, no matter what it is. And I'm sure there's some things that I've said or done that have caught you by surprise as well.
I think we do all that. But my disposition is when the board approves something and they move forward, we move forward together. And that's what my attempt was, even without dialogue. But I don't know how to reconcile.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in closing, I'll just point out that the first year, those are the LMI areas. We're obviously going to follow that rule to a T. And again, just for clarity, the price didn't increase. We added additional optional equipment that will be paid for out of the general fund. And you know, we may or may not do it. We'd like to. We're adding it on for efficiency's sake.
But why is that okay? We approved something and then you changed it.
Oh, staff can go and purchase equipment all the time, sir, as long as it's within their budget.
That is true.
On something this
Sir,
controversial.
we purchased
on something
hundreds.
this controversial, you thought that was a good idea.
That's why I brought it here to you today.
But you brought it here with it already baked in. You didn't bring it and ask first. So now it's okay, I'm over here going, this is a bad idea, but you should have come to us first, in my opinion, because now it's already baked in.
It's not baked in respectfully, but I understand and I respect what you say, Commissioner Hughes.
I see both sides. Thank you, Matt. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Is there a vote?
Oh, there's no vote. Yeah.
Off. No.
Commissioner Street,
Before the next,
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas,
Yes.
Mayor Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right. Yep. All right, we're calling to order the April 14th Board of Directors meeting for the Panama City Community Fund Incorporated. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Director Granger is not here. Director Street.
Here.
Director Hughes.
I'm here.
Director Lucas.
Yes, sir.
Here and seated.
Director Branch
seated.
it has stepped out of the room.
He is here.
Yep,
He is
we'll
here.
highlight when he does return.
His
Board
telephone
members, you have the minutes from the February 24th, 2026 special call Panama City Community Fund Board of Directors meeting minutes in front of you. Staff would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Director Street.
Yes.
Director Hughes.
Yes.
Director Lucas.
Yes.
Director Branch is not here.
Not at a time. All right,
So is that 3-0?
4-0. Thank you. All right, we're now moving into audience participation.
I'm sorry, it's 3. 3-0.
Oh, forgot Mr. Granger's not here. You are correct. Yes, 3 is a quorum. All right, moving into audience participation, item number 2. If there is anybody in the audience that would like to speak to anything under the authority of the Board of Directors for the Panama City Community Fund, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes. Seeing none, audience participation is closed. Moving into item number 3, confirmation of officers. You have in front of you the updated officers and directors for the Panama City Community Fund in front of you, with the addition of Ms. Brandy Waldron now as the secretary. Staff will entertain a motion to confirm these new officers.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on item number 3? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Director Street.
Yes.
Director Hughes.
Yes, ma'am.
Director Lucas.
Yes.
Director Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Item number 4 is approval of the quarterly financial reports for the Panama City Community Fund. Madam Secretary?
Sorry, we have someone who would like to speak.
Yes, I'm a member of the public, and I didn't get the opportunity to speak. I don't know how much.
I opened it up
You already
and
closed that. I know. You closed
I
it, and
opened it
there's
up
nobody
and-
else from the public here, so I thought I'd speak for the public and say, I'd like to know what you're actually going to do for the public and how much money you're talking about throwing around. What's the dollar amount on this?
We're not throwing any money around. I'll be happy to share one of these reports with you, but this is the Panama City Community Fund. This is a nonprofit for the city of Panama City to support things within the community as well as for the employees of the city
Okay,
of
it's not on
Panama
your
City.
website, so I don't know how to get
This
information
absolutely
about
is on
it.
the website. This agenda is on the website.
It's not on your city calendar.
I mean, I don't have the calendar in front of me, but this has been
I would
properly
like to get
noticed.
the information. If you could give me the information, DT Panama, email it to me, give me the information that
Mr.
you're talking
Thomas,
about today.
Here, we'll give you a packet right here.
Thank you. You need to put it out there in the front. I appreciate it, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, still on item number 4. Madam Secretary?
Yes, you have before you the unaudited interim financial reports for the Panama City Community Fund for period ending March 31st, 2026. Are there any questions for Ms. Smith or I to answer on the financials?
Otherwise, we would entertain a motion to approve and accept.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Seeing no questions, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Director Street.
Yes.
Director Hughes.
Yes.
Director Lucas.
Yes.
Director Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
All right, staff would entertain a motion to adjourn if there's no questions from the board. All right, is there a second?
Yes.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Director Street.
Yes.
Director Hughes.
Yes.
Director Lucas.
Yes.
Director Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Meeting is adjourned.